Chapter 2469. After taking 2 steps forward, Bailey Hongzhuang was already standing beside Lan Qingyan. Her lips couldn't help but curve into a sarcastic smile. Lan Qingyan, I've disappointed you. Lan Qingyan's face was ashen. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who appeared in front of her, her eyes were filled with disbelief. She didn't want to believe this fact. The pride that she had been proud of for so long actually dissipated in just a moment after Bailey Hongzhuang woke up. In comparison, Bailey Hongzhuang's harvest was much better than hers. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was weaker than Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, in a short period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang has already reversed all the disadvantages. Needless to say, Bailey Hongzhuang's ranking is definitely higher than Lan Qingyan's. Didn't you see Lan Qingyan's pale face? This Bailey Hongzhuang is really talented. She can't be underestimated. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang had not woken up, everyone couldn't help but change their opinion after seeing Lan Qingyan's results. However, in a short time after Bailey Hongzhuang woke up, everyone's impression of her changed again. Now, most of the cultivators felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's future development couldn't be underestimated. In addition to her relationship with a young sect master of Tiangang sect, the rise of Limitless Palace was absolutely expected. For a moment, many people were secretly thinking in their hearts. After this battle of Zhuolu ended, they had to pull their relationship closer with Limitless Palace. Limitless Palace's strength had always been good. However, because it had been established for a short period of time, its foundation was insufficient. Therefore, everyone didn't pay too much attention to it. Once Limitless Palace and Tiangang sect had a marriage alliance, the situation would completely change. In the past, there weren't many forces that had close contact with Limitless Palace. The earlier they contacted Limitless Palace, the better. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Ouyang Etian's heart was filled with emotions. He really didn't know how the Palace Master of Limitless Palace found such a successor. It was really heaven-defying. With Bailey Hongzhuang's speed of improvement and her perception, it would not be difficult for her to surpass Lan Qingyan in the future. The only thing was that the foundation of Limitless Palace could not be compared to the Lan clan. This time, after Lan Qingyan returned to the Lan clan, she would definitely use the clan's resources to improve herself. He and Lan Qingyan had known each other for so many years, so he knew her character very well. Therefore, the next time Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Qingyan met, it was hard to say who would win and who would lose. Just when everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had shown enough talent, Bailey Hongzhuang's next move stunned everyone once again. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang did not stop there. She continued to move forward. The third step. When Bailey Hongzhuang appeared beside Di Beichun and the 9 identity cards in front of her, everyone was certain that Bailey Hongzhuang had really reached the 3rd level. My wife, you're really amazing. Di Beichun smiled and gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's perception had always been very powerful. Now it seemed that the state that Bailey Hongzhuang had entered previously had great benefits for her. Not only did she not fall behind in her comprehension, but her cultivation also increased rapidly. It was really eye-catching. That's natural. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and winked at Di Beichun. Her harvest from this trip was much greater than everyone's imagination. Chapter 2470. Originally, her Rainbow God Pearl was only flowing with rainbow light. Its effect wasn't small, but it wasn't that shocking. However, after obtaining that power in the vast starry sky, she finally knew what the Real Rainbow God Pearl looked like. Now, if someone could see her Dantian, they would discover that other than the rainbow light from before, her Rainbow God Pearl also had specks of light. It was like the vast universe, just like a small galaxy. Following the changes of the Rainbow God Pearl, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the true use of the Rainbow God Pearl. It was no wonder that the Lan family had been able to stand strong for so many years. The successor was already much stronger than ordinary cultivators with the Rainbow Sacred Pearl. If he had the awakened Rainbow Sacred Pearl, he would be even more powerful. However, She was also curious why Lan Qingyan didn't enter that state when she also possessed the Rainbow God Pearl. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang had two guesses in her mind. Firstly, Lan Qingyan's Rainbow God Pearl was stolen. She herself wasn't the possessor of the Rainbow God Pearl, so she didn't have the qualifications to enter that world. Secondly, even cultivators who possess the Rainbow God Pearl might not be able to comprehend and enter that world. No matter which point it was, as long as Lan Qingyan didn't have such an opportunity, it was extremely good. She believed that even her master didn't know that the Rainbow God Pearl had such a miraculous effect. However, someone in the Lan family definitely knew. Perhaps the Lan family was hoping that Lan Qingyan could rely on this primal chaos tablet to break through in one go. Unfortunately, the final result would ultimately disappoint them. After obtaining another 9 identity tokens, Bailey Hongzhuang's number of identity tokens had become third. Other than Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue, she had obtained the most identity tokens. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't intend to end like this. She also didn't expect that this battle of vying for deer would have such a good start. However, as long as there was such an opportunity, she wouldn't miss it. She wanted to use this opportunity to let her name, Bailey Hongzhuang, resound throughout the world. This way, when she went to the Lan family, they wouldn't treat her as an ordinary person. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang continued forward. The current her was no longer as unfamiliar with this mysterious primal chaos tablet as before. Instead, she was extremely familiar with it. She was very thankful for the primal chaos tablet. If not for it, she wouldn't have such an improvement. The fourth step. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang take the fourth step, they couldn't help but gasp. So far, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue had made it the furthest. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would make it to the fourth step so smoothly after waking up? 12 identity cards appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang kept them without hesitation. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang took the fifth step. Lan Qingyan was completely dumbfounded after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. Her face was filled with disbelief. How difficult it was to comprehend the primal chaos tablet. All the cultivators present were extremely clear. If she didn't have the help of the Rainbow God Pearl, it wouldn't have been easy for her to reach this step. However, this extremely difficult task was accomplished so smoothly by Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Qingyan only felt that her heart had been ruthlessly smashed. This Bailey Hongzhuang, who was surrounded by a halo, really made her envious. Chapter 2471. Feeling Lan Qingyan's gaze filled with jealousy, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. Seems like Lan Qingyan still didn't have a very good tolerance. Fifth step. Sixth step. Bailey Hongzhuang directly appeared in front of the primal chaos tablet, her right hand covering the tablet. Feeling that familiar aura, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile couldn't help but widen. Her heart was filled with gratitude towards the primal chaos tablet. Ever since she entered the vast space, the primal chaos tablet had been using its own power to help her. Thinking about it, every cultivator who had the Rainbow God Pearl would be very thankful for the existence of the primal chaos tablet. Only, what made her surprised was that the primal chaos ring and the primal chaos tablet had a very special connection. If she linked everything together, she suddenly felt that her transmigration into Bailey Hongzhuang's body might have been predestined. Many thanks. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed towards the primal chaos tablet. Maybe to other people, the primal chaos tablet was just a tablet with the power of laws. But she knew that the primal chaos tablet had its own spirituality. Any treasure born from heaven and earth would have its own spirituality. The vast space that she went to was the origin world of the primal chaos tablet. All the cultivators present had their mouths wide open as they stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang walking step by step towards the origin world of the primal chaos tablet. This scene completely stunned them, even if they knew Bailey Hongzhuang's comprehension. But at most she was on the same level as Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue. But Bailey Hongzhuang actually walked in front of the primal chaos tablet. How could these cultivators who had worked so hard for so long just to take 1 or 2 steps endure this? In comparison, they were nothing but trash. The most important thing was that Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly bowed towards the Primal Chaos tablet and said words of gratitude. This was really strange. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained the Primal Chaos tablet's special inheritance without them knowing? That was why she was able to have such a shocking performance? No matter what, everyone was clear that the first place of the Battle of Zhuolu was definitely Bailey Hongzhuang. She had obtained so many identity tablets just from the Primal Chaos tablet. Who could compare to Bailey Hongzhuang? Di Beichun and the rest looked thoughtfully at Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. If their judgment wasn't wrong, Bailey Hongzhuang definitely obtained the Primal Chaos tablet's guidance in her previous state. If not, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to comprehend so much. But to Di Beichun and the rest, this was an extremely good thing. Di Beichun, your wife says, wins Bailey Hongzhuang's performance. As long as the Battle of Zhuolu ended, Bailey Hongzhuang's name would definitely spread throughout the world. With Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, identity, and current strength, luckily Di Beichun had acted early. Otherwise, who knew how many people would be chasing after Bailey Hongzhuang? He couldn't help but admire his brother's eyesight. It was really good. Even the young master of Shirtian Tower didn't have such a good opportunity. Di Beichun smiled evilly and winked. My eyesight is naturally good. You're taking advantage of me. Seeing Di Beichun being so shameless, Zhuang couldn't help but shake his head. This guy would definitely be a wife-flaunting demon in the future. Chapter 2472. By the time everyone could see clearly again, they were already on the ground. Looking carefully, everyone found that there was a high platform in front of them. On the high platform stood a few powerful elders. These are the people in charge of announcing the results this time. They're the Lan family, the Cloud Sword sect, and the Hung Mountain sect. Di Beichun whispered in Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. Every time the Battle of Zhuolu was held, not all forces would participate. Therefore, every time, 3 forces would send people with high authority to announce the final results. Not only that, most of the 3 forces were not involved with each other. This was to prevent the possibility of cheating. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. This method was indeed very fair. However, she felt that the name of the Hung Mountain sect seemed very familiar. Had we seen the people from the Hung Mountain sect before? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask. Di Beichun raised his handsome eyebrows slightly. Speaking of which, we really did not meet the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect in the main hall. Previously, there were many forces, so he did not pay special attention. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned it, he remembered that they had not seen the team from the Hung Mountain sect from the beginning to the end. Master, wasn't the Hung Mountain sect the team that was trapped in the array by us before? Xiao He could not help but remind him. The cultivators from Wuji Palace were also helpless. Their young palace master was really busy. Previously, he did not even pay with his life. Now, he even forgot who the other party was. If the Hung Mountain sect's young palace master knew about this, he would probably vomit blood again. So if it's them, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly realized. I forgot. She did not see the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect, so she did not remember them. However, according to Di Beichun's words, didn't this mean that the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect had been trapped in the array from the beginning until the end of the Battle of Zhuolu? It seemed that the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect were really tragic. Feng Qinyi was very upset. The trial of the Battle of Zhuolu happened to fall on their Hongshan sect. He had originally intended to take advantage of this opportunity to perform well, but he did not expect that his identity card would be stolen by a sneak attack, and then he would be trapped in the array formation. He had already wandered around the demonic miasma forest countless times, but he just couldn't get out. In the end, the entire team was exhausted and did not have any hope of coming out. They might as well just wait for the Battle of Zhuolu to end. This was really a bad start. Needless to say, they would be the last in the Battle of Zhuolu. The most despicable thing was that the other party actually claimed to be the young palace master of Limitless Palace. Even if he lost, He must find out who the other party was. Just as everyone was discussing and thinking that they could have a good rest after the Battle of Zhuolu, an old man on the high platform spoke first. "I'm the Cloud Sword sect's Grand Elder, Feng Weilon." As soon as this was said, everyone present quieted down and listened carefully to the person on the high platform. "Next to me is the Lan family's Grand Elder, Lan Borong, and the Hung Mountain sect's Grand Elder, Wei Lihua." Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all bowed. These three people were all very powerful and had a very high status among the three. Chapter 2473. Today marks the end of the Battle of Zhuolu. The three of us will witness everyone's strength. Feng Weilon's expression was indifferent. His gaze was even gentler when it landed on Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. He hoped that the young sect master and his wife would achieve good results in the Battle of Zhuolu. The rankings of the Battle of Zhuolu include the individual and team competitions. We will first determine the team's results. The three elders clearly didn't intend to waste any more time on this matter. The final rankings were what they were most concerned about. As long as the rankings were confirmed, the major powers would make some adjustments in the next few years. As for the rest, everyone present was a cultivator who had experienced hundreds of battles. There was no need to continue with the formalities. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on the Lan family's first elder, Lan Borong. According to what she knew from Lan Yinxiao, the majority of the Lan family's elders supported Lan Jingquang. Only a small portion of them supported Lan Yinxiao. Among them, Lan Borong was the elder who watched Lan Yinxiao grow up and treated him extremely well. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect to see Lan Borong here. She hesitated for a moment, but still felt that there was no need to hide her identity in front of Lan Borong. In any case, they would be heading to the Lan family soon. She believed in her father's judgment. Since her father believed that Lan Borong was on their side, then she didn't need to worry. Following Feng Weilon's words, the rankings of the teams appeared on the huge black square pillar at the front. There were a total of 40 teams present, and every team's ranking was clearly reflected on it. However, the rankings were slowly displayed from the bottom to the top. When everyone saw that the 40th team was from the Hung Mountain sect, their expressions couldn't help but become more interesting. The team that originally thought that they would be at the bottom didn't expect to have an existence worse than them. They were instantly overjoyed. The moment she saw the ranking, Wei Lihua's expression froze. Before the Battle of Zhuolu began, their young sect master had bitterly cultivated for a long time and was full of confidence in this Battle of Zhuolu. How could they be at the bottom? Moreover, this time, the Hengshan sect was the one who announced the final result. This was a great loss of face. Feng Qianyi's face was already ugly to the extreme. Although he had already expected this situation, when it really happened, he still lost all his face. He just wanted to find a hole to hide in. All the cultivators present looked at the cultivators of the Hung Mountain sect and Wei Lihua. This time, the Hung Mountain sect was really a dark horse. Although the strength of the Hung Mountain faction was not the best, it should be in the middle level. Unexpectedly, it was at the bottom this time. We didn't see Feng Qianyi and the others in the main hall. Where did they go? After Wei Lihua heard everyone's discussion and saw Feng Qianyi's extremely vexed expression, she had already guessed a possibility in her mind. "Young sect master, you wouldn't have taken that path, would you?" As soon as she said that, Feng Weilon and Lan Borong's expressions changed a little. They immediately understood which path Wei Lihua was talking about. If that was really the case, then it was not surprising that the Hung Mountain sect had achieved such a result. Chapter 2474. Following Feng Qianyi's words, the cultivators who had some doubts suddenly understood what was going on. They had also heard of the legendary path, but they were very glad that they did not encounter it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other cultivators from Limitless Palace looked at each other, not understanding what Feng Qianyi meant. Weren't they walking the same path as Feng Qianyi? Why did the others have such strange expressions? Xiren couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect that the winner this time would be the Hung Shan sect. No one else has such luck. Shangguan Yingying also covered her mouth and laughed. Didn't you see how ugly Feng Qianyi's face was? This time, the Hengshan sect has really lost face. Ying, what are you laughing at? Is there something wrong with the path that the Hengshan sect took? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Hongzhuang, you don't know, but there is a path that none of the participating teams are willing to take in the battle for deer. It is the path that the Hengshan sect took this time. It is said that the test on that path is very difficult, and there's also the existence of the array. Therefore, the last place in every battle for deer is mostly the team that was assigned to that path. Shang Guanying laughed and explained to Bailey Hongzhuang. Before participating in the battle for deer, they were constantly praying in their hearts, hoping that they would not be the unluckiest ones. Hearing this, the cultivators from Limitless Palace reacted. Previously, they were still lamenting that the difficulty of the battle for deer was really high. If it wasn't for the young palace master's heaven-defying ability, they were afraid that they would not be able to make it. Compared to that, the test in the underground passage was not difficult at all. Now, they finally understood what was going on. It wasn't that every team's path was so difficult. It was just that they weren't lucky. However, compared to their harvest, it could not be said that they were unlucky. I was wondering why the tests along the way were so difficult. It turns out that we took the path that no one was willing to take. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. As soon as this was said, Shang Guanying and the others could not help but be stunned. They only suspected that they had misheard. Hongzhuang, what did you just say? Did you take that path as well? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. I thought every path would be difficult. Instantly, the smiles on everyone's faces froze as they stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. Hongzhuang, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? When Xiren asked, there's no mistake. Feng Qianyi's identity medallion is still with me. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally took out Feng Qianyi's identity card. This was the first identity card she had obtained. When everyone clearly saw Feng Qianyi's name written on the identity card, everyone's expression suddenly became interesting. Solid evidence. This was irrefutable evidence. Shang Guanying couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, you can still walk out of that road. I really admire you. You broke the record of the battle for deer for so many years. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue did not know what to say at this moment. That road was notoriously difficult to walk, but Bailey Hongzhuang did not know anything and still walked down it. If Feng Qianyi knew, he would probably be angered to death. Chapter 2475. After all, every time a team participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, there would be such an unlucky team. Everyone was already used to it. It could only be said that their Hengshan sect was unlucky. It was not because they did not have the strength. At this time, Feng Qianyi searched through all the teams and finally found Limitless Palace's figure. The next moment, Feng Qianyi immediately walked to the front of Limitless Palace's team. He still remembered the words that guy said to him. Until now, he could not help but feel angry when he thought of it. The other party actually claimed to be the young palace master of Limitless Palace. Limitless Palace did not have a young palace master at all. Is there a young palace master of Limitless Palace in your team? Feng Qianyi stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. His face could not hide his annoyance. When these words came out, the cultivators present looked at Feng Qianyi in astonishment. They did not understand why Feng Qianyi would find trouble with Limitless Palace at this time. Only the disciples of Limitless Palace knew. To be honest, the young palace master had clearly left a real name. However, Feng Qianyi's brain did not believe it. The people who attacked us previously claimed to be from Limitless Palace. They even left the name of Limitless Palace's young palace master, Bailey Hongzhuang. I just want to know if this matter is true. Feng Qianyi was a stubborn person. He was unlucky to be trapped in the array this time. He accepted it. However, the other party played with him. He could not just let it go like this. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. No matter what, he had to know which team he was defeated by. Following Feng Qianyi's words, the expressions of all the cultivators present became strange. They only knew the name of Limitless Palace's young palace master, Bailey Hongzhuang when they were in the main hall. However, Feng Qinyi was clearly surrounded by a sneak attack before that. Logically speaking, there should not be anyone who pretended to be Bailey Hongzhuang on the high platform. Wei Lihua and the other two looked at Feng Qinyi in confusion. They did not understand what Feng Qinyi was doing at this time. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Feng Qinyi in front of her. This guy's appearance did not match his name. Feng Qinyi was slightly plump, and his round face was filled with indignation. The stubbornness in his bones was also revealed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. I'm the one who took your identity card. From the beginning to the end, she had never intended to deny this matter. It was just that Feng Qinyi himself did not believe it. Feng Qinyi originally thought that he would definitely get a negative answer. Therefore, he did not seriously size up Limitless Palace's team. Instead, he wanted to know how long the team that ambushed him could last. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang admitted it, Feng Qinyi was dumbfounded. I am Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized again. Before she had participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, almost no one had known her name as Bailey Hongzhuang. Once the Battle of Zhuolu was over, she wanted everyone to know of her existence. Only then did Feng Qinyi notice the identity card with his name written on it in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He was dumbfounded. How could this be? Feng Qinyi's face turned into the color of a pig's liver. His original imposing manner disappeared in an instant. The other party had been speaking the truth all along. However, he was angry because the other party had lied to him for such a long time. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang was too honest. Didn't the usual sneak attack not leave a name? Chapter 2476. Originally, everyone was confused about this matter, but after seeing the identity card in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, everyone understood the reason. It turned out that not only were Feng Qinyi's group trapped in the array, even their identity tokens were taken away. So, Bailey Hongzhuang and Hengshan Sect's people took the same path? Then why did Bailey Hongzhuang's group walk out? The people from Limitless Palace couldn't have walked through the most difficult path, right? It seems to be so. The cultivators looked at each other in dismay. This news was really explosive. For so many years, no one had successfully walked through the group, but someone had actually walked through it. Feng Qinyi didn't think of this point before. Now that he understood, his gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang was filled with fear. He always thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's group would be trapped in the front, but from the others' expressions, it was clearly not the case. Wei Lihua and Feng Weilan, who were on the high platform, looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. Limitless Palace's group actually walked through this path. This was really amazing. Most importantly, for so many years, cultivators couldn't walk through it. So how did Limitless Palace's group walk through it? Logically speaking, Limitless Palace's palace master absolutely wouldn't reveal the content of this test. In fact, even if he revealed it, Bailey Hongzhuang's group wouldn't be able to pass with the difficulty of this test. However, they actually passed. The two's emotions kept changing. It seemed that Limitless Palace's cultivators weren't ordinary. Lan family's great elder Lan Borong stared at the pale golden figure in a daze. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and his heart was in a perilous situation. How is this possible? The young woman in front of him was so similar to Mu Lingbing in the past. Even, he could vaguely see Lan Yunxiao's silhouette. However, that child couldn't have survived at that time. Lan Borong only felt that his brain had stopped at this moment, and he couldn't think properly. He understood everything that happened at that time. Everyone was helpless. Even if Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing took out their treasures, they still couldn't save him. After that, the Yu family wasn't willing to save him, so Lan Yunxiao's group completely disappeared. For so many years, he never received any news of Lan Yunxiao's group. However, the face in front of him was clearly so familiar. How could he not have any connection with her? If that child was still alive, he should have reached this age by now. Lan Borong kept thinking about all these possibilities in his mind. Then how did she become the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace? Moreover, her surname was Bailey, not Lan. Could it be this was just a coincidence? Lan Borong couldn't figure it out. This news was too shocking for him. He couldn't figure out at all. Wei Lihua and Feng Weilon couldn't help but look at Lan Borong on the side, but they saw the shocked expression on Lan Borong's face. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts that Lan Borong's shock towards Bailey Hongzhuang was even greater than theirs. Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed the change in Lan Borong's expression. Others didn't know why Lan Borong was shocked, but she was very clear in her heart. Reveal it. You will know everything sooner or later. Chapter 2477. Such a despicable matter had happened to the usually glorious Lan family. No one stood on the side of justice and had persecuted their family to such a state. However, the truth would never be so easily covered up, because those who were oppressed were so unreconciled. Even if they spent their entire lives and let themselves sink in pain, they would never forget that filthy and despicable scene. She would never forget. Lan Yinxiao would never forget. Mu Lingbing would never forget. Mu Jins would never forget. Situ Yin would never forget. Their entire family would never forget. Hence, they wanted to expose everything in front of everyone. The sharp Di Beichen also noticed the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Borong's expressions. In fact, from the moment he knew that Lan Borong had appeared here, Di Beichen couldn't help but worry. Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Lingbing looked too similar. As long as it was the older generation of the Lan family, anyone who had seen Mu Lingbing before would definitely recognize Bailey Hongzhuang. Hence, he had been paying attention to Lan Borong. As expected, the moment Lan Borong saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he was clearly stunned. He definitely recognized Bailey Hongzhuang. At the same time, he also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference and calmness. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was already prepared to meet the Lan family at any time. Since that was the case, he was relieved. With their current background, there was no need for them to hide like before. Even if they were to openly challenge the Lan family, they wouldn't be afraid. The blood feud that they had prepared for so many years was finally going to be unveiled. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Feng Qianyi, who was staring at her in a daze with an awkward expression and didn't know how to get out of the embarrassing situation. She slowly said, "Young Master Feng, this is my first time participating in the Battle of Zhuolu. If I have done anything wrong, I hope that you will be magnanimous enough to forgive me." Speaking of which, Feng Qianyi was also an unlucky fellow who had been harmed by her array. In a battlefield like the Battle of Zhuolu, small conflicts were extremely normal. Logically speaking, there was no need to be too calculative. She believed that Feng Qianyi would not be so serious. After all, there were winners and losers in the competition. Feng Qianyi originally didn't know how to get out of this situation. Now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang giving him a way out, he naturally went along with it. "Young Palace Master Bailey, I'm truly sorry for my ignorance." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "This is my first time attending as Limitless Palace's Young Palace Master. It's normal for young Master Feng to not know." After Feng Qianyi and Bailey Hongzhuang exchanged a few pleasantries, Feng Qianyi returned to his team. Although it was still somewhat awkward, it was undoubtedly much better than before. Originally, he was full of resentment towards the person who ambushed him, but after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he wasn't so angry anymore. On the contrary, he felt that his tolerance couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang. He was really apologetic. The rankings on the ranking board continued to appear. The earlier the teams saw their names, the more depressed they were. On the other hand, the teams that didn't see their names were filled with anticipation. Lan family, 20th place. When Lan Borong saw this ranking, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. He only suspected that he had seen wrongly. 20th place? Their Lan family was always in the top few every time. How did they fall to 20th place this time? Chapter 2478. However, after noticing Lan Qingyin's missing right arm, Lan Borong already understood in his heart. The Lan clan had probably encountered an extremely terrible situation in the Battle of Zhuolu this time. With Lan Qingyin's strength, it was easy to imagine that she had fallen to such a state. Wei Lihua, who was originally in a very bad mood, felt a little comforted after seeing the Lan clan's ranking. She didn't expect the Lan clan's performance to be so bad this time. They were originally in the top few, but this time they fell to the 20th place. Their Hongshan sect was originally in the middle level, but now they had fallen to the last place. In essence, they were the same. Cloud Sword sect's Elder Foam Wailon was in an extremely good mood. It seemed that at least their Cloud Sword sect didn't encounter such an unexpected situation. The Ouyang clan's performance this time wasn't greatly affected by the Lan clan, and they obtained the 10th place. 8th place, Sun Moon Palace. After everyone saw the name Sun Moon Palace, the teams present couldn't help but sigh. Sun Moon Palace had been in seclusion for so many years. Many people had already neglected them. However, they still obtained such an amazing result in the Battle of Zhuolu. From this, it seemed that even if the other party was in seclusion, their strength wasn't weak at all. If they underestimated them, because of this, they would be the unlucky ones. 4th place, Cloud Sword Sect. When he saw this result, Feng Weilon's face couldn't help but reveal a thick smile. This ranking was already an extremely good result for their Cloud Sword Sect. In the next few years, the Cloud Sword Sect's right to speak would increase again. The young Palace Master and young Palace Master's wife lived up to everyone's expectations, and their results were excellent. When Xiren and Shangwan Yingying also revealed joyful smiles after seeing this result. They didn't cultivate so hard for so long in vain. Looking at this result now, they felt that everything was worth it. 2nd place, Shitian Pavilion. 2nd place, Tiangang Sect. When these two second places appeared, everyone couldn't help but be surprised, because there was no 3rd place but 2 second places. Lan Borong and the others were also surprised when they saw this situation, but after thinking carefully, they understood. Shitian Pavilion and Tiangang Sect had obtained the same number of identity cards, so they were tied for 2nd place. This kind of situation had happened before, but it was the first time it had happened in 2nd place. Everyone could not help but exclaim. Previously, when they saw Di Beichin and Mo Yunjue's performance in front of the Primal Chaos tablet, they felt that the two of them were equally matched. Who would have thought that the number of identity cards in this team would be exactly the same? These two people were really fated. The Three Beasts, when Xiren and the rest were speechless when they saw this scene. This was too much of a coincidence. What an ill-fated fate. Compared to everyone else's shock, Di Beichin and Mo Yunjue's expressions were extremely calm. This result was not out of their expectations. After marveling at the strength of these two forces, everyone's gaze landed on Limitless Palace. As expected, the 1st place belonged to Limitless Palace. The number of identity cards that Bailey Hongzhuang alone had obtained was equivalent to the number of identity cards that the other team had. It would be strange if they didn't get 1st place. 1st place, Limitless Palace. When these 6 resplendent words appeared, everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Chapter 2479. On the high platform, Feng Weilon and the other two couldn't help but be stunned. The result of this Battle of Zhuolu was truly unexpected. In their opinion, the biggest possibility of getting 1st place was Tiangang Sect. However, the one who got 1st place turned out to be Limitless Palace, which no one thought of. This was really a dark horse. It seemed like Limitless Palace's development in these few years couldn't be underestimated. Moreover, Limitless Palace's team had passed through the most difficult team. Linking all of these together, it proved that Limitless Palace's team was truly strong. Lan Qingyan couldn't hide the jealousy in her eyes. All the glory and limelight had been snatched away by Bailey Hongzhuang alone. She was truly unhappy. She had already lost this Battle of Zhuolu. The next time she met Bailey Hongzhuang, she would definitely win it back. After Lan Borong knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's achievements, he was even more shocked. If Bailey Hongzhuang was really Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing's child, then it wasn't strange for her to be so outstanding. After all, like father, like daughter. However, her dantian was completely shattered and couldn't be recovered. It was impossible for her to become a cultivator. Lan Borong kept thinking about these thoughts. After returning to the Lan family, he would definitely tell the family head this news. All these years, they might have overlooked many things. He knew how important Lan Yunxiao was in the family head's heart. After that incident, the family head directly spat out a mouthful of blood. After so many years, the family head had never given up on searching for Lan Yunxiao. However, they seemed to have disappeared into thin air and couldn't be found at all. If Lan Yunxiao and the rest were still alive, the family head would be much more relieved. After all, it was a knot in the family head's heart that he couldn't untie. Lan Yunxiao and the rest had disappeared for nearly 20 years. Ever since they disappeared, the family head had never bothered with Lan Jingquan. As the family head's good brother, he clearly knew that the saddest thing for the family head was that the two sons he was so proud of couldn't help each other and instead fought to this extent. The top 3 teams this time will receive the cultivation resources provided by the major forces. After the Battle of Zhuolu, the resources will be sent to your respective forces as soon as possible. Feng Weilan said slowly. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled faintly. The cultivation resources offered by the various major forces would not be lacking, and gathering them together would naturally bring about benefits that could not be ignored. Next, we will announce the results of the individual competition. Only the top 10 will be announced. Lan Borong said slowly. At this moment, he had already recovered from his previous shock. No matter what the truth was, he had to wait until he returned to the Lan clan before making any other plans. Very quickly, the results on the stone pillar disappeared and were replaced by the individual rankings. Compared to the nervousness of the others, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were extremely calm because they already knew the outcome. Master, our harvest this time is really not small. Xiao Hei's eyes sparkled. When she first participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, she was very nervous. She never thought that she would have a chance to win. Not only did Limitless Palace's reputation become more resounding, we also obtained many benefits. Xiao by rubber hands. Even if she hadn't seen the treasures, she didn't need to think to know that these treasures were definitely not bad. Chapter 2480. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the happy faces of the 3 little guys, and the smile in her eyes became even gentler. You guys have contributed greatly in this battle of vying for the throne. After we go back, I'll treat you guys to a big meal. How about it? Master is the best. The 3 beasties were full of smiles. They hadn't eaten any delicacies for 3 months, and they really missed it. In the end, as expected, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were tied for second place. When the crowd saw that Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue had the same result again, they only thought that the 2 of them were at odds with each other. Things were so coincidental that it made people sigh in admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang also couldn't understand how the 2 of them could be so coincidental that they obtained the same number of identity tablets. Logically speaking, this was something that was hard to achieve even if it was specially arranged. First place, Bailey Hongzhuang. When the 7 different colored words appeared again, the crowd couldn't help but gasp in admiration. In this battle of vying for the throne, Bailey Hongzhuang was really in the limelight. No other powerhouse could compare to Limitless Palace. All the limelight had been overshadowed by them. Limitless Palace's cultivators were full of joy. Before the competition, although they hoped to get a good result, they didn't even dare to think of getting first place. They didn't think that it would actually land on their heads. They didn't disappoint the palace master's expectations for them. This would be their life's glory. Lan Qingyan didn't enter the top 10. This result was too different from what she had thought before coming. She was afraid that when she returned to her family, this result would be criticized. Once she thought of this and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was flushed with success, Lan Qingyan almost ground her teeth to pieces. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, the person who was flushed with success would be her. She really couldn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was able to obtain the Primal Chaos Tablet's approval. She believed that her senses weren't wrong. There was a connection between the Primal Chaos Tablet and the Rainbow God Bead. She felt that after comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet, the Rainbow God Bead in her body had become stronger. Logically speaking, she was the one who was most likely to be accepted. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang accepted? When Lan Borong saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was the winner of this competition, his expression became even more complicated. From his perspective, Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely not an ordinary person. On the contrary, she was very outstanding. No matter if it was her way of dealing with people or her temperament, she was much more mature than Lan Qingyan. She was neither arrogant nor rash. Even if she had the upper hand, she knew how to use the simplest method to win the other party's favor. If it was Lan Qingyan, when Feng Qianyi was in that situation, it would be good enough if she didn't kick him while he was down. She wouldn't have given Feng Qianyi a way out. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was magnanimous enough. First, she lowered her own status so that the other party wouldn't feel the slightest bit of falsehood. Then, she gratefully accepted her good intentions. Previously, Feng Qianyi was still full of resentment towards Bailey Hongzhuang. But because of such a simple matter, Feng Qianyi already didn't care about the previous matter. On the contrary, he even accepted Bailey Hongzhuang's favor. This seemed like a very simple matter, but with his sharp eyes, he could already see a lot. Chapter 2481. Turning his gaze, Lan Borong also noticed Lan Qingyan's face filled with hatred. He couldn't help but feel helpless. Regarding Lan Qingyan's temperament, he had always felt helpless. If the clan leader had such a temperament, it would not be easy to handle the clan's affairs in the future. However, Lan Qingyan's temperament seemed to be innate and could not be changed. All these years, the elders had also discussed this matter. However, the most outstanding person in the entire Lan clan was Lan Qingyan. Moreover, Lan Qingyan was the owner of the Rainbow Pearl, so her position as the clan leader was unshakable. As the elders in the clan, they could only do their best to help Lan Qingyan. The Lan clan absolutely could not fall because of Lan Qingyan's temperament, but they still had a trace of hope. Lan Qingyan's current arrogant and domineering temperament was only due to her youth. When she truly became the clan leader, her temperament should change. The top 3 in the individual competition this time can enter the Lan clan's Divine Ice Lake to cultivate for a month. The Divine Ice Lake will open 3 months later. At that time, the 3 of you can come to my Lan clan as guests. Lan Borong's face was filled with a faint smile. His gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2. Following Lan Borong's words, the originally noisy crowd could not help but let out a cry of surprise. The Lan clan's Divine Ice Lake was very famous. Many years ago, the Lan clan had also used it as a reward for the Battle of Zhuolu. Cultivators who cultivated in the Divine Ice Lake for a month would have the opportunity to increase their cultivation. Moreover, their spiritual roots would also be improved to a certain extent, helping the cultivator to reach a higher level. The further a cultivator cultivated, the harder it would be to break through, especially when crossing from the blue realm to the purple realm. Any impurity could affect the result of the breakthrough. Therefore, everyone would make sufficient preparations to break through to the purple realm. As long as they could increase their chances of winning by a little, it would be excellent. This Divine Ice Lake was an opportunity that everyone had always been envious of. Who would have thought that the Lan clan would take it out as a reward this time? It was really enviable. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun, and Mo Yunjue. This was an enviable opportunity. Normally, the Lan family's Ice Snow Divine Pond was only used by the Lan family's cultivators. Other people had no chance to enter. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 would be so lucky? Not only that, but even though the Divine Pond of Ice and Snow belonged to the Lan family, it could not be used at any time. It was only available once every 3 years, and only a few people could use it each time. If he missed it this time, he would have to wait for 3 years. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know much about the Divine Pond of Ice and Snow, but from the envious expressions of the others, she knew that the Divine Pond of Ice and Snow wasn't simple. She had never enjoyed the cultivation resources of the Lan family. It seemed that she would have to make a trip to the Lan family in 3 months. Speaking of which, she was really looking forward to it. The environment that she was supposed to be incomparably familiar with was now frighteningly unfamiliar. Deep Baichin and Mo Yunju couldn't help but look at each other. This was really a coincidence. The Lan family had only taken out the opportunity to enter the divine pond of ice and snow twice. They didn't expect that they would encounter it this time. Chapter 2482. When Lan Borong returned to the Lan family, he would definitely report this matter. Needless to say, the Lan family would immediately send people to investigate this matter. Even though they had kept this matter under wraps, there was no guarantee that no clues would be leaked out. However, even if it was a dragon's lair or a tiger's den, they would still accompany Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and saw Deep Baichin and Mo Yunju's slightly dignified expressions. She couldn't help but smile. It seemed that they had the same idea. She would definitely not give up on this opportunity. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. 3 months later, going to the Lan family would probably be a different experience. After knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to the Lan family, Lan Xinyan's eyes couldn't help but reveal a smug smile. The Lan clan, that was Lan Xinyan's home ground. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang dared to bully her. When Bailey Hongzhuang went to the Lan family, she would let Bailey Hongzhuang have a good taste of what it felt like to bully others. The humiliation that Bailey Hongzhuang gave her, she would return it back in folds. Master, that Lan Xinyan must have some bad ideas in her heart. Baisher noticed Lan Xinyan's smug expression and couldn't help but feel dissatisfied. Just by looking at this evil woman's expression, he knew that she must be thinking of some despicable means. After going to the Lan family, no one knew what would happen. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze turned slightly. As expected, she saw the viciousness in Lan Xinyan's eyes that hadn't dissipated in time. Lan Xinyan also didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly turn around. She couldn't help but feel guilty. She didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to run away. If Bailey Hongzhuang gave up this opportunity, then she didn't know when she would be able to turn the tables. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curved into a mocking smile. She looked at Lan Xinyan provocatively. Her meaning was obvious. If you have the ability, then come at me. No matter what Lan Xinyan did, she was not afraid. On the contrary, it was Lan Xinyan who should be afraid. Afraid that she didn't know when all the things she had snatched away would leave her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to remind her. It wouldn't be long before the outcome of the battle was revealed. When Lan Xinyan saw Bailey Hongzhuang being so arrogant, she couldn't help but get angry. This woman was even more arrogant than her. It seemed that her previous worries were unnecessary. Bailey Hongzhuang was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. At that time, she would let Bailey Hongzhuang experience her, Lan Xinyan's, methods. So what if she killed Limitless Palace's young palace master? Everyone's gaze couldn't help but fall on a Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Xinyan. The reward that the Lan family had given out this time was too coincidental. The cultivators who were originally prepared to get closer to Limitless Palace after the Battle of Zhuolu couldn't help but hesitate. Once Bailey Hongzhuang went to the Lan family, it could be a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. The Lan family was Lan Xinyan's home ground. It was almost impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to take advantage of it. If something happened to Bailey Hongzhuang and the Lan family, they would have to carefully consider how the wind would change. The Battle of Zhuolu had ended. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned home with a proud record and went to the place where the transmission array was located. Wife, are you mentally prepared for this trip to the Lan family? Chapter 2483. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I've already mentally prepared myself. I'll have to go sooner or later. It's not a bad thing to go earlier. She no longer feared the Lan family. Even if she had to reveal her identity to everyone in the Lan family, she wouldn't care at all. The only thing she was worried about was her parents. She didn't know how her parents' bodies had recovered in the past few months. She hoped that the next time she returned to the Lan family, the whole family would return together. However, the 20 years of torture had taken a toll on their bodies. It wouldn't be easy for them to recover. Before she had left the Sun Moon Palace, she had already tried her best to concoct pills to help her parents recover. She believed that during this period of time, her maternal grandparents would also use all the heavenly treasures they had to help her parents recover. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know how long it had been since she had recovered. She would check on her parents' situation when she returned. If possible, it was time for them to appear in front of the Lan family. Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. She didn't seem to be worried or pretending to be strong. He was also relieved. Hongzhuang had always been strong. Perhaps other people would have been crushed by this kind of situation. However, Hongzhuang had managed to break through under this kind of pressure. He believed that Hongzhuang would be able to face the Lan family calmly in the future. Mo Yunjua looked at the strong Bailey Hongzhuang and didn't say anything. Hongzhuang didn't have the weakness and helplessness of other women. However, the strength she displayed made one's heart ache even more. In the past, he had always felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was carrying a burden on her shoulders. However, he wasn't sure what it was. Ever since he understood why Bailey Hongzhuang was so strong. Many times, it was the environment that forced people to grow. They didn't have a choice. Xiren and Shangwan Ying didn't know the deeper meaning behind Di Beichen's question. They only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would suffer Lan Qingyin's revenge when she went to the Lan family. Hongzhuang, don't worry. Shangwan Ying's face rippled with a concerned smile. This time, you're all going to the Lan clan as the top 3 in the Battle of Zhuolu. Even if Lan Qingyin wants to make things difficult for you, you can't make it too obvious. Otherwise, it will be detrimental to the Lan clan's reputation. I believe that the people of the Lan clan will not allow Lan Qingyin to run amok. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded. I understand. This divine pond of ice and snow is a good opportunity. I will not give up just because of Lan Qingyin. Shangwan Ying gave him a thumbs up. If you don't go, then Lan Qingyin will be really happy. So you must go. Ying is right. Xiren echoed. With your current strength and the help of the divine ice lake, you will be an existence that threatens Lan Qingyin's position in the future. That's why Lan Qingyin is acting like this. Di Beichen and the others looked at each other and smiled. They were willing to do anything that made the enemy uncomfortable. That's right, Hongzhuang. What happened to you in front of the Primal Chaos Tablet? Why were you in such a strange state? Shangwan Ying's face was filled with curiosity. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang entered that state, she was already very curious. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's shocking performance, she became even more curious. Chapter 2484. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes focused on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Towards this point, they were truly curious. They had never encountered such a situation before. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When I was comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet, I suddenly realized that I had entered a vast space. If I didn't guess wrongly, that should be the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet. Afterwards, I kept walking in this vast space, feeling the power of the space to help me cultivate. I had no understanding of the outside world and had no way of leaving. Only when the Battle of Zhuolu was about to end did I come out. With regard to this point, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't intend to hide it. Thinking about it, the fated people of the other Primal Chaos Tablets would also see such a world. However, she didn't reveal the connection between the Rainbow God Pearl, the Primal Chaos Ring, and the Primal Chaos Tablet. Before heading to the Lan family, she wouldn't reveal the Rainbow God Pearl. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangwan Ying and the others' faces were filled with amazement. I didn't expect the Primal Chaos Tablet to have such a mystical world. Hongzhuang, you're the fated person of the Primal Chaos Tablet. Xiren's eyes were filled with indescribable emotions. Such a fortuitous encounter was truly enviable. Even though he only heard a few sentences from Bailey Hongzhuang, he could feel the uniqueness of that vast world. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were also shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's comprehension was truly exceptional. Out of all the cultivators present, she had to be chosen. Just based on this point, it was enough to judge. It's just a coincidence. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. If it wasn't for the Rainbow God Pearl and the Primal Chaos Ring, she wouldn't have been able to enter the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet. Hong Zhuang, where are you planning to go later? There were only 3 months left before heading to the Lan family. It seemed like there was still a long time, but in reality, there wasn't much time left. There was no teleportation array between Limitless Palace, Heavenly Dipper Sect, and Sun Moon Palace. If they were to rush, they would need to spend a lot of time on the journey. After not seeing Lan Yunxiao and the others for so long, Bailey Hongzhuang must have missed them very much. If Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to go directly to Sun Moon Palace, she could still go directly with Guji Qin and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment and said, I think I should make a trip back to Limitless Palace first. Now that the Battle of Zhuolu is over, I have to go back and report to them. This was her first time participating in the competition as the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace. Furthermore, the cultivators of Limitless Palace did not know much about her. She could use this opportunity to go back and stabilize her position. What's more, Master and Mistress had high hopes for her. If she didn't go back, it would be inappropriate. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's reply, Deep Baichen nodded his head. Wait for me at Limitless Palace. I'll find you soon. Now that the Battle of Zhuolu was over, they needed to discuss their next steps. All right, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. In the next 3 months, they still needed to prepare many things. Hongzhuang, if there's anything you need me for, just send me a letter. Mo Yunjue slowly said. Just from Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's expressions, he could already guess what they were planning to do. Chapter 2485. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of gratitude in her heart. Her beautiful face also bloomed into a brilliant smile. All right, when we meet at the Lan family, I'll teach you the art of disguise, okay? She had already said earlier that she would teach Mo Yunjue the art of disguise. However, during this period of time, they came and went in a hurry. She didn't have the chance to say anything else. When they went to the Lan family, she believed that the situation at the beginning wouldn't be so urgent. Taking advantage of this opportunity, she could also teach the art of disguise to Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue's cold face suddenly revealed a smile. His voice was so gentle that it was surprising. All right, Shangguan Yingying and Wen Ziren sighed in their hearts when they saw Mo Yunjue looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes full of affection. All along, they felt that the Heaven Slaughter Tower was too mysterious. The young master of the Heaven Slaughter Tower was also a decisive person. However, no one had ever thought that the young master of the Heaven Slaughter Tower would be an infatuated person. This kind of understanding made them change their view of Mo Yunjue. In their hearts, they also felt a little sad for Mo Yunjue. If such a man found the right sweetheart, they should also be a pair of immortal companions. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the teleportation array. After everyone agreed to meet again next time, the Limitless Palace team, as the first-place existence, left first. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others opened their eyes again, they had already appeared in the teleportation array at the foot of the Limitless Palace mountain. Standing in front of them were the Palace Master, the Palace Master's wife, and many elders. Just as the Palace Master said before they left, they would be waiting for their return here. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appeared in the center of the teleportation array, Yu Linfeng and the others revealed a smile on their faces. With a slight glance, they discovered that 2 people were missing from the team. However, these casualties were within their expectations. There were casualties in almost every battle of Zhuolu. As long as the army wasn't completely wiped out, it wasn't too bad. Bailey Hongzhuang had lost 2 out of 10 people, which was a pretty good result. Palace Master's wife. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately bowed to Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu. Ever since they came back and saw the Palace Master and Madam personally welcoming them, they had an uncontrollable excitement in their hearts. It's good that you're back safely. Let's return to the sect first. Yu Linfeng had a faint smile on his face. He did not know the results of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. But no matter what, everyone was participating for the sake of Limitless Palace. 3 months of training was already tough enough. If you were to ask about the results now, it would hurt everyone's feelings. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also had smiles on their faces. After leaving Limitless Palace for 3 months, they couldn't help but feel happy when they returned. The feeling of returning home was always excellent. The elders were a little perturbed. They didn't know what the results were this time. This was the thing that they were most concerned about. This was because this result would affect the development of Limitless Palace and their right to speak for the next few years. Limitless Palace's strength had always been strong. It was just that they hadn't been established for a long time, so they still needed a certain amount of time. If they obtained good results in the Battle of Zhuolu, then this situation would change. Chapter 2486. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest appeared at the peak of Limitless Palace, they saw the cultivators of Limitless Palace coming out to greet them. Look, they're back. The Battle of Zhuolu is indeed dangerous. 10 people went, and only 8 came back. I wonder how they did. Looking at their expressions, I think their results should be pretty good. The disciples discussed animatedly as they had countless guesses in their hearts. They only hoped that they could achieve a good result. As disciples of Limitless Palace, they were bound together for good or ill. If Limitless Palace could achieve a good result in the Battle of Zhuolu, then, as disciples of Limitless Palace, they would also share in the glory. Long Xianjing and the others were in an extremely good mood. At this moment, when they saw the many pairs of expectant eyes, they felt that they had not let down everyone's expectations of them. At the same time, they had also drawn a thick and heavy stroke in their careers. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest did not stay for long. Instead, they followed behind Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu to the assembly hall. They needed to report the situation of the Battle of Zhuolu to Yu Linfeng and the rest. After that, the other disciples would also know about their results. Nangong Wu and the rest were in a good mood. From Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's expressions, they could tell that their results would not be bad. If it was really bad, he believed that everyone's faces would be filled with frustration, and they wouldn't be in such high spirits right now. In fact, the moment they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, their hearts that were originally on tenterhooks relaxed a little. Assembly Hall, Palace Master, Palace Mistress, and the various elders took their seats. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stood in the middle of the assembly hall. Speaking of which, they were not tired at all. The second half of the Battle of Zhuolu was completely different from the previous battles. Hongzhuang, how are your results this time? Yu Linfeng knew that everyone was curious about this question. He immediately went straight to the point and asked. Now that everyone here was from Limitless Palace, there was no need to hide anything. As soon as he said that, all the elders looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. They were obviously very concerned about this result. Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face was filled with confidence and joy. She bowed to Yu Linfeng and said, "Fortunately, we didn't disappoint you. We won first place." Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the entire meeting hall fell silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Their eyes were filled with doubt and surprise. They wondered if they had heard wrongly. However, from the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they felt that they had not heard wrongly. You said first place? Nangong Wu couldn't help but ask again. This result was something that even they had never imagined. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said to everyone again in an affirmative tone, "That's right, we won first place." Haha. Suddenly, the entire assembly hall burst into laughter. This news was too unexpected and pleasantly surprising. Even the elders who were usually calm couldn't help but laugh out loud at this moment. Bailey Hongzhuang would never lie to them about this kind of thing. This result was really something to be proud of. Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu looked at each other, and a smile appeared on their faces. First place. Chapter 2487. Immediately, all the elders in the discussion hall looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with fiery gazes. They were the heroes of Limitless Palace. Nurturing disciples was not an easy task. Furthermore, Limitless Palace had only been established for a short period of time. The cultivators they recruited were only ordinary cultivators. If they wanted to nurture these cultivators to a level where they could compete with the cultivators of other factions, they would need a period of time. Over the years, Limitless Palace had been improving every year. Although they knew that this was due to objective factors, the elders could not help but sigh in their hearts. There were many factions in Shangxian continent. The result was the result. Not many people would care about the process and reason. Therefore, their right to speak could not be compared to the other major factions. Originally, they only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would be able to obtain a good result in the battle for throne. At the very least, they would be able to improve. This was also related to Bailey Hongzhuang revealing her identity for the first time. However, none of them dared to imagine that they would be able to obtain first place. The successors and cultivators of the top factions were never weak. To defeat them and obtain first place was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang had clearly told them that Limitless Palace had obtained first place. How did you obtain first place? Gu Taihong could not help but ask. This matter was simply too exciting. Even with their mentality, they could not wait to know the process at this moment. Looking at the excited faces of the elders, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled even more brightly. They had worked so hard for so long. Firstly, it was for themselves. Secondly, it was to live up to the expectations of Limitless Palace. At this moment, seeing the happy faces of the palace master and the elders, they felt a strong sense of pride. They had finally lived up to everyone's expectations. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could answer Gu Taihong's question, Yu Linfeng's voice rang out again. Then who obtained first place in the individual competition? The moment he said this, Long Xianjing and the others' gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. It's the young palace master. Everyone replied in unison. In such a joyous moment, everyone did not care about their usual etiquette and status. They only wanted to quickly share this good news. This news was no different from a heavy bomb that smashed on everyone's body. Nangong Wu was startled at first, but then her face was filled with ecstasy. She knew that Hongzhuang's performance would not be bad. However, this result was simply too shocking. First place. It was Bailey Hongzhuang's first time participating in the Zhuolu battle, and she already won first place. This was truly a good start. There is no need for them to introduce Bailey Hongzhuang as Limitless Palace's young palace lord. Yu Linfeng was also a little surprised. Originally, he was a little worried that with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, there would be a lot of pressure competing with the heirs of other forces. Because he was very clear that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation at that time could only be ranked in the lower middle level among the many outstanding heirs. Her strength was probably in the middle. He had always been worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would not be able to take it after meeting Lan Qingyan and being suppressed by Lan Qingyan. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would give them such a big surprise and obtain first place. Chapter 2488. Gu Taihong and the other elders also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with burning eyes. Their dignified faces were now filled with shock and astonishment. Everyone had been dissatisfied with the palace master's decision to let the young palace master lead the team to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu without informing them. Bailey Hongzhuang was too young, and everyone did not know much about Bailey Hongzhuang. The successor was related to the future development of the sect. How could they make such a decision so casually? Moreover, before the Battle of Zhuolu began, Bailey Hongzhuang had not appeared. When she appeared, she immediately participated in the Battle of Zhuolu. As for Bailey Hongzhuang, other than Gu Taihong, who knew a little about her, the other elders only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was the champion of the assessment competition. At the same time, she was also a genius alchemist. If Bailey Hongzhuang was only a cultivator, her results would naturally be very good. However, if she wanted to be the successor, she would need to have a higher standard. However, at this moment, after knowing the results of Bailey Hongzhuang, the complaints in everyone's hearts had dissipated. Champion of the Battle of Zhuolu. Who would dare to say that Bailey Hongzhuang did not have the qualifications to become the young palace master? Such results were enough to make the entire limitless palace proud. Gu Taihong's face was filled with joy. Recently, many elders had been asking him about the young palace master's situation. The pressure on him was not small. Fortunately, the young palace master had amazed the world with a single brilliant feat now. He did not have to worry about the criticism of others. Results were everything. Just as Gu Taihong had thought, all the elders felt that the palace master's foresight was indeed extraordinary. The successor that was suddenly chosen was actually so powerful. The other forces did not have such good foresight. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly narrated the events that had happened in the Battle of Zhuolu. Thinking about it, everyone was very curious about their experiences during this period of time. Why not tell them now to save everyone's curiosity? But you're saying that you're taking the hardest path? Nangong Wu could not help but raise her voice. Previously, she had discussed this matter with Yulin Feng and felt that their team would not be so unlucky. Who would have thought that they would really be the unlucky ones? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Although the tests along the way were very difficult, we also gained a lot. Now that she thought about it, Bailey Hongzhuang was glad that they chose this path. Otherwise, they would not have gained so much, and she would not have been able to improve her strength. The greater the difficulty, the greater the improvement. This was the truth of the cultivation world. Young Palace Master, there is a formation on this path. How did you get there? Gu Taihong frowned slightly. Compared to the other tests, this array formation was the one that left him speechless. For so many years, almost every team had been trapped in this array. I cracked it, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the conference hall looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. She cracked it so easily? This kind of array formation should not be so easy to crack, right? Not only did the young palace master crack the array, but she also set up a new array formation to trap the Hung Shan sect's team. We directly attacked the Hung Shan sect and took their identity cards. Chapter 2489. As Yin Aoshuang's voice fell, the elders in the meeting hall looked at each other in dismay. There was only one question in their minds. Where did the palace master find the young palace master from? Arrays, the current cultivators would not even come into contact with such things, right? But now, it seemed that the young palace master had not only come into contact with it, but she had also mastered it thoroughly. Otherwise, the young palace master would not have been able to set up another array to trap the Hung Shan sect cultivators so easily. At this moment, the elders could not help but mourn for the Hung Shan sect. Needless to say, the Hung Shan sect was in last place this time. When Yulin Feng and the rest found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had crippled Lan Qingyin's hand, they were completely shocked. Lan Qingyin had been famous for a long time. They had a rough idea of her strength. With Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, logically speaking, it was impossible for her to seriously injure Lan Qingyin. Yet, Bailey Hongzhuang had done it. Nangong Wu quietly gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up. She thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would still need some time to seek revenge on Lan Qingyin. She did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so powerful. She had given Lan Qingyin a head-on blow the first time they met. But this feeling was really great. She had always been looking forward to the battle between Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Qingyin. Although she had not seen it with her own eyes, just hearing about it made her feel very happy. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest finished talking about what they had experienced in the Battle of Zhuolu, everyone finally understood. If Bailey Hongzhuang did not lead the team in this Battle of Zhuolu, their results would not be better than the previous years. On the contrary, they would be in the last place. This was because in their team, other than Bailey Hongzhuang who could break this array, the others obviously could not do anything. In the end, it was also because Bailey Hongzhuang comprehended the Primal Chaos Tablet that she was able to obtain enough identity cards. All the light was covered by Bailey Hongzhuang alone. After explaining everything, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to their respective residences to rest. After running around outside for 3 months, everyone wanted to go back to their own residences to relax. Before Bailey Hongzhuang left, Nangong Wu gave Bailey Hongzhuang a look, indicating that she would look for her later. Now, they needed to announce this result to the entire Limitless Palace. This was a joyous occasion for the entire Limitless Palace. It was also a shot in the arm for all the disciples of Limitless Palace. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties returned to the palace, someone had already brought them food. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and knew that this was definitely prepared for her by Master's wife. Her heart couldn't help but feel warm. Master and Master's wife had always treated her as one of their own and gave her a lot of warmth. When the three beasties saw the delicacies in front of them, their eyes stared straight at Bailey Hongzhuang. They were just waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to give the order, and they would eat heartily. Looking at the three beasties' excited looks, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile deepened. Although these three fellows could eat a lot, they were really cute. "Let's eat." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When she said that, the three beasties were like wild horses that had broken free of their reins and started to eat heartily. As they ate, they even raised their oily mouths and talked to Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 2490. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Cultivation is not an enjoyment. Training outside is not comparable to training at home, so the treatment is naturally incomparable. You guys should take advantage of this time to eat more delicious food. After a while, we will be setting off again. The three beasties had been with Bailey Hongzhuang for so long, and their feelings had long turned into familial love. Bailey Hongzhuang was very glad to have these three playful fellows by her side. No matter what, they would always support her. The three beasties nodded. When they went to the Lan family, they still did not know what would happen. With Lan Qingyin's personality, there would definitely be a lot of trouble. Most importantly, they still did not know when their master was planning to reveal her identity in front of the Lan family. They had to be prepared. Although the strength behind their master could not be underestimated, the first time they went to the Lan family, it would not be a group of people killing their way in. Therefore, the Lan family could be said to be a tiger's den. No one could be sure of the Lan family's attitude. In their opinion, the Lan family was a very cold-blooded family. Initially, they felt that their master, who had been robbed of the rainbow pearl and crippled of her dantian, no longer had any value. Therefore, in order to protect Lan Qingyin's family, they turned against their master's family. Now, their value was even higher than Lan Qingyin's. They were really curious about what the Lan family would choose under such circumstances. It would be best if the Lan family maintained their usual style. Only by letting Lan Qingyin feel the feeling of being worthless and abandoned would the pride in her bones be obliterated. Bailey Hongzhuang did not think too much. Before deciding on a specific course of action, she had to contact her parents. Only then, she could be sure of what to do next. She believed that her parents also wanted revenge. After all, so many years of humiliation and oppression. If they did not return it, they would not be able to let it go for the rest of their lives. Just after Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties finished eating, Yulin Feng and Nangong Wu also came to Bailey Hongzhuang's bedroom. "Master, mistress." Bailey Hongzhuang bowed to the two of them. Compared to her strict attitude in the meeting hall, there was no doubt that she was much more intimate now. Nangong Wu pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and sat down. "It must be very tiring to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. "I'm not tired." After so many years, she had long been used to such a life and did not feel tired at all. "You've truly given us a huge surprise this time. I'm afraid none of the powers had expected such an outcome." Yu Linfeng's face rippled with a smile like a spring breeze. His disciple really gave him face. He suddenly felt that he had underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang in the past, because Bailey Hongzhuang could always explode with power that others could not imagine at the critical moment. Yes, Nangong Wu's face was full of excitement. Just now, all the elders were full of praise for you, praising your master's eyesight. You don't know, before you all returned, all the elders were full of complaints. When I think of their change in attitude, I find it funny. Master, Mistress, if you all did not give me this opportunity, I would not be able to reach this step. Bailey Hongzhuang was neither arrogant nor rash. She was very clear about her own strength. Chapter 2491. If it wasn't for this, she definitely wouldn't be able to get first place. Deep Beichin and Mo Yunjue were the real first-place existences. Nangong Wu chuckled. If you participate as a Tiangang sect disciple, then the first place will definitely belong to Tiangang sect. If that's the case, then we're the ones who got a huge advantage. The smile on Yu Linfeng's lips widened. Letting Bailey Hongzhuang participate in the Battle of Zhuolu was an idea that he had just decided on not too long ago. Originally, he didn't make this suggestion because he wanted to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Without sufficient preparation, it would be harmful to Lan Qingyan. However, he felt that instead of letting Bailey Hongzhuang participate as a Tiangang sect disciple, it would be better for her to participate as the young palace master of Limitless Palace. At least, in terms of status, she and Lan Qingyan were the same. However, the surprise that Bailey Hongzhuang gave him this time was really too big. This time, the Lan family really failed miserably. Compared to Limitless Palace's previous excitement, the Lan family's current situation should be very bad. Hongzhuang, 3 months later, you'll be heading to the Lan family's divine ice snow pond. What do you think? A serious expression appeared on Yu Linfeng's face. When he heard this news, he was already worried. It was just that he didn't show it in the discussion hall. Bailey Hongzhuang was the daughter of Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing. Even if she didn't reveal her identity, there were many smart people in the Lan family. Seeing this familiar face, they might be able to deduce some clues. Once that happened, the situation might not be something that Bailey Hongzhuang could control. I didn't hide my identity. In the Battle of Zhuolu this time, I met the Lan family's great elder, Lan Boron. If I didn't guess wrongly, he has already begun to suspect my identity. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. Now, she already had the confidence to face the Lan family head-on. There was no need for her to be cautious. After hiding for so many years, she no longer wanted to continue hiding. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu couldn't help but look at each other. In their minds, they had already vaguely guessed Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. She was planning to lay all her cards on the table. I have already made preparations. As long as my parents recover, we can appear in front of the Lan clan at any time. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Now, they were not people who could be slaughtered so easily like before. With Tiangang sect, Sun Moon Palace, and Limitless Palace as their foundation, even if they went to the Lan clan would not dare to do anything to them. She was not afraid at all. However, she hoped that her parents could appear in front of the Lan family in a strong state. Back then, they had been in dire straits in front of the Lan clan. Now, they would not fall into that situation again. Yu Linfeng looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing the determination and fearlessness in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had already thought everything through. Since you already have a plan, Master will definitely support you. When you go to the Lan clan, Master will go with you. Stay in the outer city. If there is any danger, release the signal flare and I will appear immediately. Yu Linfeng's gaze was soft as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He wanted to see who dared to touch his disciple. Chapter 2492. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu, who had made up their minds. Her heart was moved. Thank you, Master and Mistress. You've always cared for me. Thinking back, she and her master had only met by chance, yet her master had done everything he could to help her. This was not something that could be expressed with just a few words of thanks. It would take a lifetime to remember and repay. We're all family. Why are you being so courteous? Nangong Wu's face was full of smiles. She and Bailey Hongzhuang had hit it off at first sight. With her fiery personality, it was not easy for her to endure until now. Furthermore, Yu Linfeng had played a part in this as well. This time, she was finally going to visit the Lan family. She would not miss this opportunity. The Lan family was indeed a great power in the Shangxian continent. However, they were not the only great power. There is no need to fear them. There's no need to say such courteous words in the future. Don't forget, we're family. Yu Linfeng's face rippled with an elegant and comfortable smile. He and Bailey Hongzhuang were originally related by blood. Furthermore, they were both people who had been expelled from the Lan family. This was a kind of fate in itself. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked at Yu Linfeng and Nan Gongwu. Her eyes flashed with a resplendent smile. She then nodded. 1,000 words would not be enough to express her gratitude. Everything was expressed without words. She would engrave all of this in her heart. Hongzhuang, this is a letter from the Sun Moon Palace a few days ago. Yu Linfeng took out a letter from his chinquan bag and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She received the letter and opened it. She had always wanted to know the current situation of the Sun Moon Palace. She never thought that the Sun Moon Palace would have already sent a letter before she had returned. Bailey Hongzhuang recognized Mu Ling Bing's handwriting at first glance. The letter stated that Mu Ling Bing and the others were in Sun Moon Palace as soon as possible. During this period of recuperation, Mu Ling Bing, Lan Yinxiao, and Mu Jin's bodies were rapidly recovering. Compared to before, it was undoubtedly much better. Situ Yin even took out all the heavenly treasures he could find, hoping to help them recover as soon as possible. Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing consumed heavenly treasures while working hard to raise their cultivation. In the past, their cultivation was not weak. Although their bodies had been ravaged beyond recognition, their strength had not been crippled. Perhaps it was because Yu Siqing and the others felt that the duo had no chance of escaping, so they didn't do so. Instead, they gave the duo a chance to recover. After such a long period of recovery, their strength had more or less recovered, and their essence, qi, and spirit were much stronger than before. Not only that, with Situ Yan's hard work, Mu Jinsei didn't reject Situ Yin as much as before. According to Mu Jin's judgment, it wouldn't be long before Mu Jin's and Situ Yin reconciled. After all, there had never been any problems between the two of them. It was only because of the misunderstanding back then that things had turned out this way. They had missed each other for so many years, and no one wanted to see them miss each other again. Thus, with Mu Ling Bing and the others acting as matchmakers, the situation gradually improved. Bailey Hongzhuang read the contents of the letter, and her smile gradually widened. Her family was doing well. This was what she wanted to see the most. This was the kinship she had always longed for. Chapter 2493. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's smile getting brighter and brighter, Nan Gongwu and Yu Linfeng glanced at each other, the smile in their eyes also getting wider. When they first met Hongzhuang, only Di Beichun was by Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had found all her family members, compared to before, they could feel that Bailey Hongzhuang was much more cheerful. Master, do you know the relationship between the Rainbow God Pearl and the Primal Chaos Tablet? After Bailey Hongzhuang finished reading the letter, she looked at Yu Linfeng. It seemed like Yu Linfeng understood the Rainbow God Pearl the most. Primal Chaos Tablet? Yu Linfeng raised his brows as a wisp of contemplation flashed across his handsome and refined face. There does seem to be some relationship between the two. This is what I heard in the Lan family. However, I've never seen the Primal Chaos Tablet, so I don't know the true relationship. You're comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet this time. Is it related to the Rainbow God Pearl? Yu Linfeng quickly thought of the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang asked this question and immediately asked. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Because of the Rainbow God Pearl, I was able to enter the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet. I discovered that the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet and the Rainbow God Pearl have different methods to achieve the same result, and the Primal Chaos Tablet has always been helping me strengthen the Rainbow God Pearl's energy in my body. How did the Rainbow God Pearl in your body change? There's an additional gold light. It's like a vast starry sky. Bailey Hongzhuang replied honestly. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly summoned the rainbow elemental energy in her body. The bright and resplendent rainbow light appeared in her hand seal. Compared to the simple rainbow light in the past, the current rainbow light seemed to be plated with a layer of gold. It was even more beautiful and beautiful. Yulin Feng immediately sensed that the rainbow light didn't just change in appearance. Its power had also increased greatly, almost to a whole new level. This rainbow elemental energy is indeed different from before. It looks really beautiful. Nangong Wu's eyes flashed with shock when she saw the rainbow elemental energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. She had to say, it looked really beautiful. Looks like the rainbow god pearl we obtained previously was only in its initial state. There's still the possibility of improvement. Your rainbow god pearl has already improved. Its power is much stronger and will help you a lot. This is a good thing and will be a great help to you. Yulin Feng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly a person with great luck. That's right, your rainbow god pearl's condition. How is Lanza's situation? It was reasonable to say that Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Xingyan both had the 7-color god pearl, so it was very likely that both of them had improved. Lan Xingyan didn't improve. Nangong Wu couldn't help but smile. A fake is a fake. Even if her parents helped her obtain the 7-color divine pearl and fuse with it, she can't be considered a true possessor. Yulin Feng nodded. Now it seems that this is the reason for it. Lan Xingyan has the rainbow god pearl, but she wasn't chosen by the rainbow god pearl, so she can't enter the primal chaos tablet's origin world. As he spoke, the corners of Yulin Feng's mouth suddenly curled into a smile. Perhaps the Lan clan has great hopes for Lan Xingyan this time, hoping that her rainbow divine pearl can be improved. Chapter 2494. Bailey Hongzhuang, Yulin Feng, and Nangong Wu looked at each other. They all had the same thought. However, it was precisely because of this that they felt relieved. If everything was so easily taken away by Lan Xingyan, then that would be the greatest injustice. Sun Moon Palace. Early in the morning, Mu Jin's, Si Tian, and the others were already waiting for Gu Zhiqin and the others to return. They also wanted to know the results of the Battle of Zhuolu. What they cared about the most was not the results of the Sun Moon Palace. The Sun Moon Palace had been in seclusion for many years and did not care too much about these things. What they cared about the most was how Bailey Hongzhuang fared in the Battle of Zhuolu. Ever since they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu and would meet Lan Xingyan in the Battle of Zhuolu, they were somewhat worried. Usually, just from Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, they could tell how much Bailey Hongzhuang hated the Lan family. From the moment Lan Xingyan took everything from Bailey Hongzhuang, they were destined to be enemies. As Bailey Hongzhuang's relatives, what they were most worried about was Bailey Hongzhuang's safety and that Bailey Hongzhuang would be unhappy. Not long after, Gu Zhiqin and the others returned one after another. Seeing so many people coming to greet them, Gu Zhiqin and the others were overwhelmed by the favor. When Mu Jin's and the others learned that Bailey Hongzhuang had participated in the Battle of Zhuolu as the young palace master of Wuji Palace and had won first place, they could not help but be stunned. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang had cut off Lan Xingyan's hand and even forced Lan Xingyan to kowtow and apologize to her in front of everyone. This was something that none of them had expected, but it was indeed in line with Bailey Hongzhuang's personality. Yin Xiao, Yishuan finally did it. Mu Lingbing could not conceal the joy on her face. As Yishuan's mother, she had not been able to properly protect her from the moment Yishuan was wronged. And now, Yixin had used her own strength to accomplish all of this. How could she not be happy? Only by defeating the person who had snatched one away from him would he be worthy of himself. Lan Yinxiao couldn't conceal the shock on his face. He always knew that his daughter was very outstanding, but Yishuan had accomplished all this in such a short time. It was truly unbelievable. However, the smile on his lips had already revealed his emotions. 19 years ago, he always felt that he was an existence worthy of being proud of. But now, Yishuan was his greatest pride. Mu Jinsei was even more agitated. Yixian is indeed formidable, worthy of being your daughter. Originally, their family had already fallen into a situation of being broken up, but because of Lan Yixuan, they were able to gather together like this. Yixuan is truly capable. You can be completely at ease now. Situ Yin grinned, revealing his white and neat teeth. His granddaughter was indeed extraordinary. The value of first place was not something that other competitions could compare to. He was truly comforted in his heart. Gu Jinghe and Gu Zhiqin's hearts were also filled with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a legendary woman. It was truly amazing that she could achieve this step. For a moment, the entire Sun Moon Palace was filled with cheers and laughter. There is nothing more joyous than seeing one's family member obtain proud results. Chapter 2495. Lan Clan. Lan Qingyan returned with Lan Borong. As soon as she appeared at the transportation array, the Lan clan was already there to welcome her. However, looking at the people who welcomed her, Lan Qingyan and the group of disciples behind her didn't have any joy on their faces. On the contrary, their faces were very ugly. Their results in the Battle of Zhuolu this time could be said to be the worst in the history of the Lan clan. The process was even more humiliating. Since the end of the Battle of Zhuolu, they were already thinking about how to explain it when they returned. That kind of situation was really hard to talk about. Thinking back to when they participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, they were full of confidence and were only waiting to kill everyone in the Battle of Zhuolu. They didn't expect that now they would come back dejected. Thinking about the expectant eyes of their family members, they felt ashamed to face others. Not to mention that they would be ridiculed by their competitors. Just thinking about it made their heads explode. Lan Borong looked at Lan Qingyan and the others with a complicated gaze. When he knew about this result, he also felt it was inconceivable. Now that they returned to the huge Lan clan, everyone's thoughts could be imagined. However, what should be faced would be faced sooner or later. This result couldn't be concealed. Moreover, Lan Qingyan's injuries were so serious that she had to recover as soon as possible. 3 months later, the divine pond of ice snow would open. Lan Qingyan had to adjust her condition in this period of time so that she could obtain the best results in the divine pond of ice snow. When the elders and disciples of the Lan clan who came to welcome them saw the situation of Lan Qingyan and the others, their faces couldn't help but change. Just looking at Lan Qingyan's missing arm, they already had a bad premonition in their hearts. With Lan Qingyan's strength, she actually fell to such a state in the Battle of Zhuolu. It seemed that the competition in this Battle of Zhuolu was extremely fierce. Lan Qingyan looked at the embarrassed expressions of the elders in front of her. Her heart was even more upset for no reason. Since young, when had she, Lan Qingyan, ever been so dejected? It was simply a loss of face. The next moment, Lan Qingyan directly said to Lan Borong, "First Elder, I'm not feeling well and will go back to rest first. I'll have to trouble you to help me deal with these matters." After her voice fell, Lan Qingyan didn't wait for Lan Borong's reply. She turned around and directly walked towards her residence. She didn't want to stay here and face everyone's doubtful gazes. This battle for the throne was the greatest humiliation of her life. Seeing Lan Qingyan leave just like that, Lan Borong couldn't help but sigh. Until now, Lan Qingyan still had such a childish temper. No matter what happened, as long as she didn't want to face it, she would leave it behind and walk away. However, not everyone was willing to help her clean up this mess. All these years, because Lan Qingyan was the owner of the Rainbow Pearl, her halo was too dazzling. Everyone was used to praising her, so she didn't even have the courage to accept these things and the patience to admit her mistakes. It was worrying. Following Lan Qingyan's departure, the faces of the other Lan family disciples who were also participating in the battle for deer chasing became even uglier. Originally, with Lan Qingyan here, everyone's focus was on Lan Qingyan. This reduced the pressure on them by a lot. Chapter 2496. As expected, all the elders' gazes landed on Lan Borong, and the other disciples. It was obvious that something unexpected had happened in the Battle of Zhuolu. Lan Borong looked at the elders in front of him and said, "Let's go to the conference hall first." The elders nodded their heads one after another. The joy on their faces when they were waiting had already disappeared, and it was replaced by a heavy feeling. The results this time were probably worse than they had expected. Conference hall. According to Lan Borong's arrangement, other than the participating disciples, all the other disciples had gone back to rest. Only the participating disciples and the elders entered the conference hall together. As soon as they entered, all the elders couldn't help but ask, "Great Elder, what exactly happened?" All the elders were confused. They couldn't understand. With the strength of their Lan family team, it shouldn't be possible for them to have a bad result. Could it be that they had been persecuted? Lan Borong's expression was heavy. He sighed helplessly. This time, our Lan family's results in the Battle of Zhuolu were very bad. We were ranked 20th. Following Lan Borong's words, all the elders' expressions changed. It was as if they had heard an impossible answer. Our Lan family has never been ranked in the top 10. This time, with a young master leading the team, our results should be better. How do we end up with such a result? Lan Borong shook his head. "I'm not too sure about this. We'll have to ask them." As soon as this was said, the gazes of all the elders landed on the participants. They had to figure out what had happened in the middle of this. "Tell us what happened from the moment you entered the Battle of Zhuolu to the end." Looking at the elders' serious expressions, the participating disciples didn't dare to hide anything. They immediately recounted the entire process. Actually, they were regretting it. If they didn't have the intention to snatch Limitless Palace's elixirs, their results wouldn't be so bad. Limitless Palace. When the group of elders found out that the culprit behind their team's poor results was Limitless Palace, almost all of the elders' faces were filled with anger. Ever since Limitless Palace expressed their unwillingness to interact with the Lan family and Limitless Palace were at odds. Who would have thought that something like this would happen during the Battle of Zhuolu? Damn it! This Limitless Palace is really incompatible with our family. I think we have to take some action. The second elder's face was filled with anger. After that incident, he advocated to teach Limitless Palace a lesson. However, in the end, the family felt that there was no need to do so. Not interacting with each other for the rest of their lives was already a form of opposition. Lan Borong, on the other hand, wasn't as angry as the second elder. Speaking of which, we can't blame Limitless Palace's team for this matter. It was our team that went to look for trouble first. However, we didn't expect Limitless Palace to have a helper like the Heaven-Devouring Pavilion. Great Elder, this Limitless Palace's young palace master is also the wife of the Heavenly Dipper sect's young sect master, a disciple said slowly. Chapter 2497. After the disciples finished recounting everything that happened in the Battle of Zhuolu, the elders couldn't help but fall into silence. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude towards Lan Xinyan made them extremely unhappy, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. "You guys must be tired after running around for so many days. Go back and rest first," Lan Borong said. Once these words came out, the disciples who participated in the Battle of Zhuolu immediately retreated as though they were pardoned. They stayed in the discussion hall and felt a low pressure. It wasn't a normal kind of pressure. After all the disciples had left, the elders exchanged glances with each other, each having their own thoughts. This Limitless Palace's young palace master seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Could it be that Limitless Palace has been secretly developing all this time? Third elder's face was solemn. They didn't pay attention to this news before. They didn't expect Limitless Palace, Big Dipper Sect, and Slaughter Sky Tower to have countless connections. In the past, there weren't many forces that had a good relationship with Limitless Palace. They didn't expect them to have so many allies in just a few years. This wasn't what they wanted to see. I've heard of this Bailey Hongzhuang's name before. A few days ago, Medicine Sect and Big Dipper Sect's alchemist competition was Bailey Hongzhuang who obtained first place. Logically speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang should be a disciple of Big Dipper sect. I don't know when she became Limitless Palace's young palace master. Fourth elder said. In reality, they weren't unfamiliar with the name Bailey Hongzhuang. It was just that no one knew of the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Limitless Palace before this. It really made them helpless. Now that things have come to this, Limitless Palace's development will probably be even faster in the next few years. We have to pay more attention. Lon Boron's expression was slightly calm. There was no point in pursuing this matter now. It was more important for them to prepare for what was coming next. Great Elder, the Primal Chaos Tablet appeared in the Battle of Zhuolu this time. I wonder if young Palace Master had a breakthrough? All the elders looked at Lon Boron. This was what they were most concerned about. In the Lon family's history, it was recorded that the Primal Chaos Tablet and the Rainbow God Pearl were inextricably linked. As long as one entered the Primal Chaos Tablet's origin world, the Rainbow God Pearl would be upgraded. Therefore, they had high hopes for Lon Qingyan this time. Although the Lon clan's ranking this time was very bad, as long as Lon Qingyan's Rainbow Divine Pearl improved, then it was worth it. Lon Borong sighed. Young Master is in a bad mood now. He didn't say much along the way, and I didn't ask. Let's wait until young Master calms down before asking. I believe the Patriarch and Master Kuang should know. Hearing Lon Borong's words, the group of elders all nodded. They knew Lon Qingyan's temperament better than anyone else. Only the clan head and Lon Jingquang could convince her wholeheartedly. They just had to report this matter to the family head and Master Kuang. Since Limitless Palace's young palace master Bailey Hongzhuang obtained first place, then 3 months later, when the icy snow god's pond opens, she will come. I want to see how capable this Bailey Hongzhuang is. The dissatisfaction between second elders' brows did not dissipate. This Bailey Hongzhuang was really too much. She actually made their young palace master kowtow and apologize in front of everyone. This was really intolerable. Chapter 2498. Lon Borong looked at the dissatisfied expressions of the elders and felt a little helpless in his heart. He wasn't dissatisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang was a remarkable existence for being able to achieve such results at such a young age. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang had that person's shadow on her. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't related to Lon Yinxiao, he couldn't dislike Bailey Hongzhuang. Moreover, he felt that they were too similar. If they weren't related by blood, it was impossible for them to be so similar. He must report this matter to the head of the family as soon as possible. If Bailey Hongzhuang really was that child, then all of this would be incredible. After leaving the meeting hall, Lon Borong headed for the house head's residence without hesitation. The house head had been in seclusion all these years. As long as there wasn't a big problem, he wouldn't appear. In fact, the house head had always been brooding over Lon Yinxiao's matter. The elder's actions had greatly disappointed the head of the family. Most importantly, the head of the family did not want to see Lon Jingquang again. When the incident happened, the house head was in seclusion. It was a crucial moment for him to break through his bottleneck. At that time, Lon Jingquang probably knew that the house head wouldn't come out to deal with this matter, so he chose that time to act. By the time the house head came out of seclusion and found out, Lon Yinxiao and his family had already disappeared. At that time, he was heartbroken by Lon Jingquang's actions. Unfortunately, Lon Jingquang had already colluded with second elder and the other elders. No matter how much he objected, it was useless. Lon Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing could no longer tolerate it under such circumstances, and he could only watch helplessly as it happened without being able to do anything about it. This matter wasn't just a pain in the house head's heart. It was also an unspeakable pain in his heart. The house head had angrily reprimanded Lon Jingquang and severely punished him. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any trace of Lon Yinxiao. Even though so much time had passed, he knew that the house head had never given up. No matter what the outcome was, he needed to discuss this matter with the house leader. He could not tell Lon Jingquang's people. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble would ensue? If Bailey Hongzhuang was really the child from back then, they had already let her down at that time. They absolutely could not let that kind of thing happen again. Not long after, Lan Borong appeared in front of the patriarch. Seeing Lan Borong's arrival, Lan Hongtai's expression was indifferent as he said, "You're here." Even though Lan Hongtai was just standing there quietly, the aura and authority of a superior had already been displayed. It could be said that he was born with it. If Lan Yunxiao saw the current Lan Hongtai, he would notice that compared to 19 years ago, the corners of Lan Hongtai's eyes had traces of wind and frost. His sharp eyes also revealed some helplessness and sorrow. Lan Borong bowed to Lan Hongtai, patriarch. Lan Hongtai nodded slightly. Qin Yin and the others have returned. How are the results? He no longer cared about many things in the Lan family, but the power was still in his hands. He had no way of handing over the enormous Lan family to Lan Jingquan. This kind of ambitious person would even harm his own brothers. He was simply inhuman. Chapter 2499. Although it was a question, Lan Hongtai didn't pay much attention to it. Lan Borong shook his head and said, Qin Yin met an unexpected opponent in the Battle of Zhuolu. Her right arm was crippled, which affected her strength. As a result, we only ranked 20th. Lan Hongtai couldn't help but frown. Our Lan family hasn't encountered such a situation for many years. What kind of extraordinary seedling has appeared in the younger generation? The results of the Battle of Zhuolu would affect the family's development in the next few years. Therefore, Lan Hongtai's expression couldn't help but change when he learned that the Lan family's ranking was so poor. The young palace master of Wuji Palace, Bailey Hongzhuang. She is very powerful and has never appeared as the young palace master of Wuji Palace before. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang won first place in the Battle of Zhuolu when she led Wuji Palace's team. She also won first place in the individual competition. Lan Borong's voice was filled with admiration and admiration. Although the relationship between Wuji Palace and the Lan family wasn't good, Bailey Hongzhuang's results were praiseworthy in anyone's eyes. Hearing Lan Borong's words, Lan Hongtai's gaze deepened as he looked into the distance, as if he was recalling the past. When Yun Xiao led his team to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu for the first time, he also achieved such good results. Unfortunately, after Yun Xiao left, our Lan family never won again. Lan Hongtai's voice was filled with nostalgia and sadness. Lan Yunxiao was the son he was most proud of. Not only was he powerful, but he also cultivated diligently and was extremely friendly. Therefore, Lan Yunxiao easily won the respect of the entire family. At such a young age, he had already established his position as the young master, and no one could shake him. When Lan Yunxiao was the young master, the Lan family had gradually grown stronger under his leadership. Lan Hongtai couldn't help but think that if Lan Yunxiao was still alive, the Lan family would be in a much more prosperous state now. Then, this old man would be able to cultivate in peace and ignore worldly affairs. Ever since they were young, Lan Yunxiao had always been sensible and was Lan Hongtai's greatest pride. It was a pity that he couldn't even protect his own son and let his granddaughter suffer such a great grievance. Although he had always been proud of Lan Yunxiao, he had never overlooked Lan Jingquan. He didn't expect Lan Jingquan to do such a deranged thing. He was simply a beast. He had once wanted to kill this bastard with his own hands, but all the elders in the clan had stopped him. He only had two sons, Lan Yunxiao and Lan Jingquan. If both of them died, then there would be no one to take over the position of house head. In fact, he didn't care about these things at all. He only wanted to get rid of that unfilial son with his own hands. However, as the head of an aristocratic family, he couldn't be stubborn. At least, as long as he didn't hand over the position of the head of the family, no one would dare to have the slightest objection. Lan Borong looked at Lan Hongtai, who couldn't help but feel sad at the mention of Lan Yunxiao. That scene back then was really nostalgic. Patriarch, I actually discovered something during the Battle of Zhuolu, but I can't confirm it, Lan Borong said slowly. After seeing Lan Hongtai's sad appearance, he couldn't help but wonder if he should tell Lan Hongtai the news. Chapter 2500. Looking at Lan Borong's hesitant appearance, Lan Hongtai couldn't help but frown. His wise and sharp eyes shot straight at Lan Borong. Just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush. For so many years, Lan Borong had always firmly supported him. Something that could make Lan Borong so hesitant was probably not simple. After thinking about it for a moment, Lan Borong decided to tell Lan Borong about this matter. Lan Hongtai was able to survive such a big incident in the past. Even if his judgment was wrong this time, Lan Borong believed that it wouldn't be a big blow to Lan Hongtai. Master, I found that the young palace master of Wuji Palace, Bailey Hongzhuang, looks very much like Ling Bing and Yin Xiao. I can see their shadows from her face. Hearing this, Lan Hongtai's expression suddenly changed. He looked at Lan Borong with a burning gaze, his eyes full of anxiety. Is what you said true? Lan Borong nodded. It's true. I never thought there would be someone who looked so similar to Ling Bing. When I first saw her, I was also shocked. But they really looked so similar. Could she be that child? After a brief shock, Lan Hongtai quickly regained his composure, but his hands under his sleeves were still trembling uncontrollably. For so many years, he had never received any news about Yin Xiao and Ling Bing. As for his granddaughter, it was impossible for her to survive in that situation. No, you and I know what happened back then. Yixuan's dantian was broken when she was young. Chuanyi was helpless and couldn't save her life even with rare treasures. The Bailey Hongzhuang you mentioned had outstanding ability and tyrannical strength, so her dantian was naturally intact. Moreover, if they are really alive, why hasn't there been any news for so many years? Hearing Lan Hongtai's words, Lan Borong's expression showed some hesitation. It was because this was impossible that he didn't dare to be sure. If he knew that they were really alive in this world, then he was almost certain that Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yixuan. If not, he would never believe that people who were not related by blood would look so similar. Patriarch, I've thought about what you said, but it's too similar. If you had seen it with your own eyes, your thoughts would be the same as mine. In fact, for so many years, we have never received any news about Yin Xiao and the others. Although the hope is slim, we cannot conclude that they have died. If they were really still alive, wouldn't the current Bailey Hongzhuang and Yin Xiao be as good as each other? The person who was truly chosen by the Rainbow Divine Pearl is Yi Xian. Hearing this, Lan Hongtai couldn't help being shocked. For so many years, he had been thinking that if that incident had not happened, Yi Xian would definitely be extremely outstanding now. Her degree of excellence would very likely surpass Lan Qingyan. Like father, like daughter. How outstanding was Lan Yinxiao back then? Moreover, Lan Yixuan was the chosen successor of the Rainbow Pearl. He was almost certain that Bailey Hongzhuang's excellence would far exceed their expectations. Unfortunately, he would never have the chance to see this scene again. Are you sure? Lan Hongtai stared at Lan Borong. He had always believed in Lan Borong's judgment. In fact, he also hoped it was true. Chapter 2501. Lan Borong nodded with certainty. I'm sure. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was related to Lan Yunxiao because they looked too similar. He believed that any elder who saw Bailey Hongzhuang would have the same thought as him. The family head must be the same as well. Since that's the case, you should investigate Bailey Hongzhuang's background first. Lan Hongtai made a prompt decision after receiving Lan Borong's confirmation. No matter what the final result was, as long as there was a trace of possibility, he would not give up. Hearing Lan Hongtai's words, Lan Borong revealed a smile. Rest assured, family head, I will immediately arrange for people to investigate. However, our relationship with Wuji Palace has always been bad, so it won't be easy to obtain information. Don't worry, everything can be done slowly. Remember, you must find a trustworthy person to inquire about this information. You must not leak any information. Currently, many people in the family stood on Lan Jingquang's side. If Lan Jingquang's people knew about this, they would probably act immediately. He had already made such a mistake before. This time, he would not let the same mistake happen again. Yes. Lan Borong immediately replied. Family head, this time, Bailey Hongzhuang won first place in the Battle of Zhuolu. So 3 months later, she will come to our Lan family to enter the Divine Pond of Ice. At that time, you can also take a look. The smile in Lan Borong's eyes widened. He felt that perhaps this was the heaven's intention to help them. Coincidentally, this time, they took out the Divine Pond of Ice as a reward, and Bailey Hongzhuang won first place. He believed that after the family head saw Bailey Hongzhuang with his own eyes, he would believe in his judgment. Hearing this, Lan Hongtai's eyes brightened. This is really good news. No matter whether Bailey Hongzhuang was his granddaughter or not, as long as he could see that face that was very similar to Yin Zhao's, he would be extremely happy. After Lan Hongtai and Lan Borong discussed for a long time, Lan Borong finally left the room. After Lan Qingyin returned to her residence, her face was full of unhappiness, especially when she saw that everyone wanted to ask her about her expression. She became even more annoyed. She just wanted to be alone and didn't want to talk about anything else. When Yu Manlan saw Lan Qingyin enter the room without saying a word after returning, she was also puzzled. Usually, Lan Qingyin would be very happy on days like this. She had always been full of confidence in Lan Qingyin, so she didn't go to welcome her today. Because Lan Qingyin had long been accustomed to this kind of competition, her results would definitely not be bad. Just now, she didn't even see Lan Qingyin's figure clearly before the door was closed. Qingyin, what's wrong? Yu Manlan asked with concern. Don't bother me. Let me be alone for a while. Lan Qingyin threw out these words in annoyance and didn't say anything else. She didn't want to face all of this. Hearing this, Yu Manlan couldn't help but be stunned. She wanted to say something, but she had no choice but to shut her mouth. Not long after, Lan Jingquang also returned. Before Yu Manlan could speak, Lan Jingquang's cold and sullen voice sounded. Where's Qingyin? Qingyin is in the room. Yu Manlan replied. Jingquang, do you know what happened to Qingyin? Chapter 25:02. Yu Manlan's expression couldn't help but change. Although she had thought of this outcome, she still felt that it was impossible. They all understood, the cultivators of the major powers. It was impossible for Qingyin to perform at such a low level. Lan Jingquang walked directly to Lan Qingyin's door and knocked. Qingyin, come out. Lan Qingyin frowned when she heard the noise outside, but she was still lying on the bed, unwilling to get up. Let me be alone for a while. Lan Jingquang's face turned colder. The Lan family has never had a top 10 in the Battle of Martial Arts for so many years. You led the team and became 20th. You still have the face to be alone? The entire family is waiting for you to explain the situation, but you ran back yourself. You have no sense of responsibility. You still dare to brag about yourself. Now, come out and go to the meeting hall. Lan Jingquang was furious when he heard the news. The entire family was talking about this. He could feel everyone's suspicious gaze. Most importantly, a loss was a loss, but Lan Qingyin did not even give any explanation and directly ran back. What was this? As the future head of the Lan family, how could she not have any sense of responsibility? Before he came back, the elders had already expressed their dissatisfaction with him. As the young master, he could make mistakes, but he definitely couldn't run away. Just this point alone was enough for Lan Qingyin to make a big mistake. When Yu Manlan heard that Lan Qingyin had only obtained 20th place, she was completely dumbfounded. 20th. This was something that had never happened in the Lan family. How could Lan Qingyin's result be so bad this time? At this moment, Yu Manlan finally understood why Lan Jingquang was so angry. This result couldn't be explained to the entire Lan family. Lan Qingyin was already frustrated. After hearing Lan Jingquang's reprimand, she was even more ashamed and angry. She didn't want to face this situation, but Lan Jingquang still forced her. I don't want to go out now. All of you leave. Lan Jingquang was even angrier when he heard Lan Qingyin's words. Do you still want to be the young master of the Lan family? Why do you have to talk about me? You can't even be the young master of the Lan family in this lifetime. Bang! After Lan Qingyin finished speaking, Lan Jingquang slammed the door open and pulled Lan Qingyan down from the bed. "Pa!" Before Lan Qingyan could react, Lan Jingquang had already ruthlessly slapped her face. "Who allowed you to talk to me like that?" Lan Qingyan was also stunned by this slap. She stared blankly at Lan Jingquang, and her eyes flashed with anger. "You hit me?" Yu Manlan was also shocked by Jingquang's actions. She immediately grabbed Jingquang's hand and said, "Jingquang, what are you doing? I usually spoil you. Don't be too ignorant." Lan Jing's voice was still fierce. "Now that your hand has become like this, you still want the family to take out medicine to treat you. If you have such an attitude, could it be that you don't want your hand anymore?" Only then did Yu Manlan notice that Lan Qingyan was missing an arm. She was stupefied. "What's going on? Qingyan, where's your arm?" Only now did Yu Manlan realize the seriousness of this matter. Chapter 25:03. Gone. Yu Manlan was in disbelief. Who did it? That person is too daring. As the young master of the Lan family, Lan Qingyan's position was unshakable. Even if the other party made a move, they wouldn't dare to be so ruthless and directly break her arm. "It's all Bailey Hongzhuang's fault. Sooner or later, I'll pay her back in double." Once she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang, Lan Qingyan's expression became extremely gloomy. Her gaze became extremely malicious. She remembered the pain of losing her arm clearly, and the slap on her heart was unforgettable. Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Qingyan's appearance, but the gloominess in his eyes didn't dissipate. "Since you still want to take revenge, you better get your act together now. If you continue to run away after making a mistake, you'll be the one losing." Hearing this, Lan Qingyan's expression didn't look good, but she knew that what Lan Jingquang said was true. She was afraid that after her return, the entire Lan family would be in an uproar. If she didn't show up, it would cause everyone to criticize her. She really couldn't continue to be so willful. Then what should I do now? Lan Qingyan looked helplessly at Lan Jingquang. Now that things had come to this, she was already in a mess and didn't know what to do. "Go to the assembly hall." Lan Jingquang's face was cold, and his gaze towards Lan Qingyan was filled with anger. However, after seeing that Lan Qingyan had finally come to her senses, his expression eased a little. "I'll go inform the elders." Lan Qingyan nodded. Once Lan Jingquang got angry, it was very scary. Even she didn't dare to talk back. "You'd better correct your attitude. As the young master, you have to be responsible. Only then will the elders not be disappointed in you. Do you understand?" Before leaving, Lan Jingquang fiercely threw down a sentence before turning to leave. After Lan Jingquang left, Yu Manlan said with concern, "Qingyan, your father's temper is like this. Don't take it to heart. This arm will definitely recover. Don't worry." "I know." The displeasure on Lan Qingyan's face was still strong. "I'll go to the conference hall first." Normally, Lan Jingquang only cared about status. Even when she was seriously injured, he didn't say a word of concern. She already understood. However, she did not care. When she became the head of the family, she wouldn't care about Lan Jingquang. Yu Manlan originally wanted to say something, but Lan Qingyan simply did not have the mood to continue talking to her. She turned around and left. Only Yu Manlan remained in the room, watching the two leave in the blink of an eye. She felt helpless. Lan Qingyan's personality was very similar to Lan Jingquang's. Regardless of whether she faced Lan Jingquang or Lan Qingyan, she could only feel helpless. When Lan Qingyan arrived at the assembly hall, Lan Jingquang had already informed all the elders to gather in the assembly hall. "I'm sorry, elders. I was in a bad mood earlier, so I left first. I'm really sorry." Lan Qingyan took the lead in apologizing and bowed to the elders. Only then did the elders' complexions become better. Previously, Lan Qingyan's disregard for everything really made everyone a little disappointed. If Lan Qingyan could only run away like this in the future, then their Lan family would not be able to see the future. In comparison, Lan Jingquang was much more suitable to be the head of the family. Chapter 2504. Young Lord, we have already understood your experience in the Battle of Zhuolu. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang is indeed a strong opponent. However, since things have already come to this, we hope that you will not lose your fighting spirit. Victory and defeat are common in war. The second elder slowly said. He was originally a member of Lan Jingquan's faction, so he had always supported Lan Qingyan. Now that he had taken the lead to say these words, the other elders would not say much about this matter. Thank you, elders, for your understanding. I was too impulsive before. I will definitely not do this again. Please rest assured. Listening to Lan Qingyan's words, all the elders nodded their heads. This was how a young lord should behave. Young lord, regarding this matter, what plans do you have for the future? Lan Borong asked. In fact, he had always hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang was really Lan Yishuan. Even though he had only met Bailey Hongzhuang once, from his understanding of the situation, Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely more suitable than Lan Qingyan to be the patriarch. In fact, Lan Hongtai had long wanted to not care about the matters of the clan. However, Lan Qingyan was still not mature enough. He could not rest assured that the Lan clan would be handed over to Lan Qingyan. Taking advantage of the previous effort, he had already sent out trustworthy people to inquire about Bailey Hongzhuang. He only hoped that the final result would not disappoint them. Hearing Lan Borong's words, Lan Qingyan could not help but look at Lan Jingquan. The first elder had always been an upright and plain-spoken person. He was different from the second elder, who was completely on their side. The first elder was the patriarch's man. If she did not answer these questions properly, it would not be long before the news reached the ears of the patriarch. This was not good news. Lan Jingquan gave Lan Qingyan a look. Only then did Lan Qingyan speak. I will work harder in my cultivation. The next time I see Bailey Hongzhuang, I will definitely not let such a thing happen again. First elder, now that things have come to this, the young master already knows where the problem lies. In my opinion, there's no need for us to be tangled up in this matter. The second elder looked at Lan Borong. This time, Lan Qingyan had indeed made a big mistake. However, he could not allow the first elder to harp on this issue. Lan Borong naturally knew what the second elder was thinking. When Lan Jingquan did those crazy things, the second elder was the first to stand up for Lan Jingquan. All these years, he and the second elder were at odds with each other on the surface. But now that Lan Yinxiao's family was no longer here, there was no need for a conflict between him and second elder. Indeed, our Lan clan is a clan that can accept failure. As long as we can snatch back our results in the next battle for deer chasing, that's good enough. In the next moment, Lan Jingquan couldn't help but glance at the second elder. The second elder immediately stood up. This time, the young master's poor performance in the battle for deer chasing was due to an unexpected situation. However, everyone has seen the young master's usual performance. Her strength is absolutely unquestionable. Moreover, this time, the young master was injured for the sake of the clan's ranking. We should quickly take out pills to help the young master recover. Long ago, Lan Jingquan had already communicated with the second elder. Now, the most important thing was to treat Lan Qingyan's injuries. Chapter 2505. That's right. In another 3 months, the divine ice snow pond will open. Young Lord must quickly recover from her injuries so that she can better absorb the energy of the divine ice snow pond. Regarding this, the elders did not have any objections. Even though this pill was extremely precious, the person who needed it was the young lord. Naturally, there was no problem. On this point, Lan Borong also agreed. Young lord, this time you encountered the primal chaos tablet in the Battle of Zhuolu. Did you gain anything? Lan Borong's eyes were wise and calm. This was something that the family head was extremely concerned about. If the Rainbow God Pearl could improve through the power of the primal chaos tablet, then it would be a joyous matter. Even if the results of the Battle of Zhuolu were not good, as long as they gained something, it would be enough. Following Lan Borong's words, the other elders' gazes all landed on Lan Qingyan. This news was something that they were also very concerned about. The connection between the Rainbow God Pearl and the Primal Chaos Tablet was something that had been passed down in the family. It was just that this Primal Chaos Tablet was in the Battle of Zhualu and would not appear every time. This time, they were all looking forward to Lan Qingyin's Rainbow God Pearl being improved because of this Primal Chaos Tablet. Lan Jingquang's expression also changed a little. For so many years, Lan Qingyin had been using the power of the Rainbow God Pearl very well. The thing that they were worried about did not happen. It was as if this was also arranged by the heavens. Lan Qingyin's body did not reject it at all. It was as if it was naturally in her body. He believed that this time would not be an exception. After hearing the questions of the elders, Lan Qingyin was also shocked. She did not tell anyone about this. Why did the elders seem like they already knew about it? I discovered that this Primal Chaos Tablet is very close to the Rainbow God Pearl. Because of this, I was able to comprehend it. Lan Qingyin smiled faintly. Hearing Lan Qingyin's words, the elders were first happy, but then they were puzzled. Young Lord, what did you comprehend? I've comprehended the Primal Chaos Tablet's contents and improved by 2 steps. However, that Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue's talents are truly perverted. I'm slightly lacking compared to them. Lan Qingyin was not willing to mention Bailey Hongzhuang at all. From her point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was absolutely lucky. Otherwise, how could she have such results? Is there no change to the Rainbow Divine Pearl? Lan Jingquang frowned. According to their understanding, the owner of the Rainbow Sacred Pearl could enter the Source World and increase the power of the Rainbow Sacred Pearl by a level. But according to Lan Qingyin's answer, it seemed that such a thing did not happen. Lan Qingyin looked at the second elder in confusion. She did not understand what the second elder meant. It was just comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet. What did it have to do with the Rainbow God Bead? The two were completely different things. Even if the Rainbow Divine Pearl helped her speed up her comprehension, it was impossible to change the Rainbow Divine Pearl. Thinking of this, Lan Qingyin couldn't help but shake her head. No. Hearing Lan Qingyin's words, the originally expectant crowd couldn't help but reveal a disappointed expression. Previously, they were incomparably anticipating that there would be a change. Then, their Lan family would definitely rise to another level under Lan Qingyin's leadership. They did not expect that there would be no movement at all. Chapter 2506. Logically speaking, the information passed down by the ancestors should not be wrong. Why did it not have any effect? Some of the elders could not help but suspect that Lan Qingyin's Rainbow Sacred Pearl did not truly belong to her. Perhaps in the past, they did not feel that there was any problem after Lan Qingyin absorbed the Rainbow Sacred Pearl. It was as if she was the true successor of the Rainbow Sacred Pearl. However, the truth was that the Rainbow Sacred Pearl had changed. It was likely that the Rainbow Sacred Pearl would no longer be able to improve after being taken away. It was just that they did not voice this guess out loud. After all, at this point, Lan Yishuan no longer existed. There was no point in mentioning this matter anymore. Lan Jingquang and the second elder's expression also changed. This was not a situation they wanted to see. They also had the same guess in their minds, but they were unwilling to believe it. Lan Qingyin had obtained the Rainbow Sacred Pearl for so many years, and there had never been any problems. Instead, she was like the previous owners of the Rainbow Sacred Pearl in the Lan family. Her cultivation speed was very fast, and her battle strength was much stronger than cultivators of the same level. Chapter 2507. However, in the current situation, if they were to mention this matter, it would definitely cause a lot of opposition. Moreover, Lan Qingyin's previous evasion had already caused a lot of elders to be dissatisfied. Lan Qingyin's performance over the years was not bad, so everyone was quite supportive. However, many of the elders had the Lan family's interests as their starting point and did not blindly support Lan Qingyin. Now that Lan Qingyin's performance was obviously not mature enough, their plan had to be pushed back. Lan Jingquang nodded. This matter was really not handled properly by Qingyin. Now is indeed not a good time to mention this matter. It's better to wait for the impact of this matter to subside before mentioning it. It's good that Master Kwong understands. Mentioning it at this time will definitely cause a lot of criticism. It's better to wait until the young lord breaks through to the Purple Realm. Second, elder side. This time, Lan Xinyan's performance was really too disappointing. Even though he had always supported Lan Jingquang and Lan Xinyan, after seeing such a result, he could only sigh. It was really too shameful. Now that this news had just spread, the impact would be even greater after a few days. Because not only was Lan Xinyan forced to kowtow and apologize in the Battle of Zhuolu, she even offended a few big forces. After the other forces knew about this matter, they would definitely think carefully. In short, this trouble was really not small. As a young lord, it was extremely unwise to cause a conflict to this extent. Most importantly, now all the elders already knew the reason. From the beginning to the end, it was Lan Xinyan who stirred up trouble first. However, in the end, she went for wool and came back shorn. Not only did this not cause the slightest bit of sympathy or anger, on the contrary, they only felt that Lan Xinyan was too stupid. As the young lord, she should know that before she had enough strength to defeat the opponent, she could only endure silently. However, Lan Xinyan just had to do something that she should not have done. It was really helpless. The second elder left after saying those words. He was really disappointed. Lan Jingquang looked at second elder's back as he left. The deep look in his eyes became even more intense. Lan Xinyan's performance this time was really disappointing. Even he did not expect it. This was simply the most shameful thing that Lan Xinyan had done since becoming the young lord. There was another point that the second elder did not mention. That was, Lan Xinyan had actually destroyed the relationship between them and the Ouyang clan. The disciples of the family did not hide anything about what had happened, so everyone knew about it clearly. Come to think of it, the Ouyang clan must have already known the whole story. If they wanted to mend their relationship, they would have to pay a certain price. It was really troublesome. The Lan family's performance this time had already caused many forces to have a clearer view of them. In addition, they had made a few opponents. If they lost an ally at this time, it would be incomparably embarrassing. After Lan Xinyan returned to the house, she kept waiting for Lan Jingquang to return. She really didn't understand what the elders' expressions meant. Xinyan, what did the elders say after you went to the assembly hall? Yu Manlan looked at Lan Xinyan with concern and asked. Lan Xinyan frowned. After I apologize, what else can they say? However, Mother, do you know what is the relationship between the Rainbow God Pearl and the Primal Chaos Tablet? I don't know. Chapter 25:08. Seeing Yu Manlan's clueless appearance, Lan Xinyan felt even more vexed. As Lan Jingquang's wife, Yu Manlan didn't have the slightest understanding of Lan Jingquang's thoughts. It had been like this for so many years. She was truly speechless. As a woman, she didn't have any tricks up her sleeves. She was simply too incompetent. Xinyan, tell Mother the exact situation. Yu Manlan couldn't hide the anxiety and concern in her eyes. Ever since Lan Xinyan and Lan Jingquang left, she was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Yet, she didn't know what had happened. Now that Lan Xinyan was back, she naturally wanted to know what had happened. Lan Xinyan impatiently waved her hand. Don't bother me. What's the use of telling you? Anyway, no matter what she said to her mother, it wouldn't be of any use. It was just a waste of time. After so many years, she had long since gotten used to it, and the little bit of patience she had left had long since been exhausted. Seeing Lan Xinyan's annoyed and impatient appearance, Yu Manlan felt a wave of sadness in her heart. She didn't know when it started, but Lan Xinyan had always treated her like this. It was as if she was an insignificant existence in this family. No one took her seriously. Outsiders might think that she was very impressive, but the Lan family members knew that she didn't have any status at all. This was something she had slowly come to realize over the years. It was because of this that she was even more jealous of Mu Lingbing. Even though Mu Lingbing had been tortured beyond recognition in the dungeon, Lan Yunxiao had always treated her the same way. The kind of doting and heartache couldn't be faked. With just a glance and a sentence, this kind of affection had been displayed incisively and vividly. Back then, she had put in so much effort to do all this for Lan Jingquang and Lan Qingyan. However, in the end, she had become an existence that was despised by them. She really could not understand why this was so. So, all these years, she had tried her best to show off in front of Mu Lingbing, wanting to show off her outstanding qualities. Unfortunately, only she knew the weakness and envy in her heart. Perhaps she would rather suffer as long as the man by her side could always dote on her. God was just so unfair. She had done everything she could, but she still couldn't get what she wanted. Lan Qingyan was too lazy to pay attention to Yu Manlan. She turned around and walked into the house. Only when Lan Jingquang returned would she get the answer she wanted. Not long after, Lan Jingquang returned. Yu Manlan was just about to ask when she saw Lan Jingquang's extremely gloomy face. She didn't dare to say anything else. Every time Lan Jingquang showed this kind of expression, she knew that something bad was going to happen. If she angered Lan Jingquang at this time, it would not end well. Lan Jingquang didn't even look at Yu Manlan and immediately walked into Lan Qingyan's room. The door to the room had already been smashed into smithereens. When Lan Jingquang walked in, he saw Lan Qingyan calmly drinking tea. He looked as if everything had already passed. He was so carefree that he didn't know how serious his mistake was. Chapter 2509. Looking at Lan Qingyan's nonchalant attitude, the anger in Lan Jingquang's heart intensified. He reached out and slapped Lan Qingyan's face. Slap! This slap was louder than the previous one. Lan Qingyan's face swelled up in a short period of time. Seeing this, Lan Qingyan looked at Lan Jingquang in a daze. She didn't understand why Lan Jingquang hit her. Wasn't everything already settled? All the elders didn't say anything. Why did Lan Jingquang still hit her? Without waiting for Lan Qingyan to ask, Lan Jingquang's roar had already rung out. Do you know how big of a mistake you've made? You've always been proud of yourself and thought that you're amazing. The Lan family has never had such a bad result in the battle for supremacy. Not only did you not gain anything, you even offended several forces. You even strained your relationship with the Ouyang family. You've caused so much damage to the family. If you don't have the ability, then stay put. You want to find trouble with others. In the end, not only did you lose your own face, but you also lost the entire family's face. Lan Qingyan was stunned by Lan Jingquang's roar. She couldn't regain her senses for a moment. Her face was burning and her brain was buzzing. After hearing Lan Jingquang's words, Yu Manlan's face turned ugly. She didn't expect things to be this bad. Didn't we already know? The elders didn't say anything. Lan Qingyan couldn't help but feel guilty when she spoke. She understood that this matter was indeed terrible. However, for the Lan family, this wasn't a mistake that they couldn't bear. Didn't say anything? Seeing that Lan Qingyan was still unrepentant, Lan Jingquang's anger came out of nowhere. Originally, I wanted to use this opportunity to make you the true clan head. Now, everything has been ruined by you. Even the elders who were originally drawn over to support you now have some opinions. The second elder is also disappointed in you. Do you know how much I've done to stabilize this all these years? It's all because of your stupidity. Now, everything has to be rearranged. Do you really think that you're amazing just because you have the rainbow pearl? That was snatched. It's not something you can have. Don't the others know about this? Do you really think you're an unparalleled genius? Lan Jingquang's words were like a sharp knife, piercing Lan Qingyan's heart. Lan Qingyan was completely dumbfounded. Even though Lan Jingquang had beaten her and scolded her before, he had never spoken to her in such a serious manner. She had always felt that she was the destined successor of the Lan family, and everyone else's light was overshadowed by her. However, after hearing Lan Jingquang's words, she finally understood that everything was under Lan Jingquang's control. She hadn't realized this until now. Yu Manlan covered her mouth to prevent herself from crying out in surprise. She hadn't seen Lan Jingquang so furious in a long time. This time, Lan Xingyan really crossed Lan Jingquang's bottom line. Lan Xingyan looked at the raging Lan Jingquang and didn't dare to say another word. She was afraid that Lan Jingquang would slap her again. Chapter 25:10. All these years, Lan Xingyan knew that Lan Jingquang had suppressed the other outstanding children in the family to help her stabilize her position. However, she believed that it was because of her own strength that all the elders supported her. After all, she was the owner of the Rainbow Pearl. Everyone who had the Rainbow Pearl had a pivotal position in the Lan family. Because of this, she never took it to heart. Moreover, her usual performance in the family was indeed good, so Lan Jingquang never told her about it. Until now, when she heard Lan Jingquang's angry rebuke, she finally understood that she had been thinking too highly of herself all these years. The atmosphere instantly froze. Lan Xingyan's gaze towards Lan Jingquang was filled with fear. Once Lan Jingquang got angry, he was extremely terrifying. Even though Lan Xingyan was usually arrogant, she didn't dare to be impudent in front of Lan Jingquang. Just from Lan Jingquang's actions towards Lan Yunxiao, she could tell that he wasn't a kind person. On the contrary, he was very frightening. Yumanlan also stood outside the room, not daring to move. All these years, her position had been precarious. She clearly knew that Lan Jingquang didn't have her in his heart. Back then, Lan Jingquang treated her well simply because he wanted to marry her and gain the backing of the Yu family. After this backing was secured, Lan Jingquang didn't care about her anymore. This was also the biggest pain in Yumanlan's life. In the past, she was too stupid and thought that Lan Jingquang truly liked her. She even thought that no one was happier than her. But in the end, she was just a chess piece. Now that Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were dead, she was no longer useful as a chess piece. If she wasn't careful, she could be abandoned at any time. This was something she couldn't accept. Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Xingyan coldly. You better perform well during this period of time. Don't make any more mistakes. You have to go and apologize to the Ouyang clan. Not everyone will help you clean up the mess you created. His cold words didn't contain the slightest bit of emotion, only endless coldness and command. Lan Jingquang's deep, dark eyes were engulfed in a terrifying storm. In the past, Lan Xingyan wasn't as reckless as she was now, so he didn't say too much. But now, Lan Xingyan felt too good about herself. It was as if everything was already hers and she couldn't run away. However, he knew very well that because of Lan Xingyan's character, many elders were slightly worried. Strength was one of the reasons to become the patriarch. But as the patriarch weighed the pros and cons, character was equally important. With Lan Xingyan's personality, Lan Jingquang, Lan Jingquang, Lan Jingquang, 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 Jingquang. Lan Hongtai, that old man, was obviously determined not to hand over the patriarch's position to him, but he didn't care. As long as Lan Xingyan became the patriarch, what was the difference between him and the patriarch? He just couldn't understand how he couldn't compare to Lan Yunxiao, but Lan Hongtai only had Lan Yunxiao in his heart. Chapter 25:11. He hated it. At that time, he was also high-spirited, and the things he did were also praised by the family. However, that old man Lan Hongtai only saw Lan Yunxiao's achievements and didn't see his hard work. He was the eldest son. What's more, Lan Hongtai had already announced Lan Yunxiao as the next family head so early and didn't even consider him. What was laughable was that Lan Hongtai actually hoped that he could help Lan Yunxiao and become his right-hand man. Why? He was the one who should be the next family head. Lan Yunxiao was just a stumbling block. That damned old man couldn't forget Lan Yunxiao even after so many years. He was simply too hateful. What part of him couldn't compare to that dead person? Strength? He was stronger. Wife status? The Yu family was still the Lan family's ally. Most importantly, the rainbow pearl had also successfully merged into Lan Qingyin's body. In his opinion, this was clearly arranged by the heavens. If the heavens didn't feel that it was unfair for him, how could they arrange everything so cleverly? Fusing with the seven-color divine pearl was not a simple matter. Unfortunately, Lan Qingyin had succeeded in fusing with it, which determined the outcome. Lan Qingyin looked at the terrifying Lan Jingquang in front of her and could only nod slightly, afraid that she had done something wrong to provoke Lan Jingquang's fury. After Lan Jingquang vented his anger, his mood calmed down a bit. Things had already reached this stage, so there was no point in being angry. He had to think of a way to make up for all of this. He still needed to visit the various elders before he could settle all of these matters. Fortunately, although Lan Qingyin's actions were overboard, it didn't arouse everyone's opposition. After Lan Qingyin saw that Lan Jingquang wasn't so angry, she was relieved. "Father, what is the relationship between the Primal Chaos Tablet and the Rainbow Pearl?" After thinking for a moment, Lan Qingyin still mustered up her courage to ask. She really wanted to know why the elders were so disappointed when they found out that her rainbow pearl didn't change. However, other than Lan Jingquang, no one else could give her an answer. Lan Jingquang coldly glanced at Lan Qingyin. Lan Qingyin only thought that she had asked a question that she shouldn't have asked. Her heart was filled with apprehension when Lan Jingquang's reply rang out. According to the news passed down by the ancestors, if the owner of the Rainbow God Pearl is able to enter the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet, then the Rainbow God Pearl's power will increase. Therefore, all the elders have high hopes for your participation in the Battle of Zhuolu. They especially hope that the seven-colored God Pearl can change. If that was the case, then no one would be able to shake your position. Unfortunately, you didn't. Hearing this, Lan Qingyin finally understood, but her feelings were somewhat complicated. I only felt that the Primal Chaos Tablet was somewhat close to the Rainbow God Pearl, but I didn't discover the source world at all. Lan Qingyin frowned. Why is that? Could it be that the information passed down by our ancestors is inaccurate? Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Qingyin's self-righteous appearance and glanced at her, saying, "If I'm not wrong, it should be because you're not the chosen successor of the Rainbow God Pearl, so you can't enter the Primal Chaos Tablet's origin world." Chapter 25:12. However, Lan Jingquang's answer was like a sharp knife stabbing into Lan Qingyin's heart, causing her to bleed profusely. She never thought that it would be such an answer. All these years, she had been fusing well with the Rainbow Pearl, and there had been no problems. Most of the time, she felt that she was the one chosen by the Rainbow Pearl. Only when people mentioned her dead sister would she feel a trace of jealousy, even if it was a dead person. Because the Rainbow Pearl chose Lan Yixuan and not her, Lan Qingyin. This was an unjustified feeling. Even if the Rainbow Pearl was already hers, it was still an extremely unpleasant feeling. She didn't understand why the Rainbow Pearl chose Lan Yixuan and not her. She was still outstanding enough. Could it be that she couldn't compare to Lan Yixuan? In this short period of time, Lan Qingyin's mind was filled with thousands of thoughts. Countless thoughts flashed through her mind. In the end, there was only one thought left: anger. Since Lan Jingquang thought of the answer to this question, the other elders must have also understood the problem. In this way, didn't this mean that everyone would think that she, Lan Qingyin, was unjustified as the successor of the Rainbow Pearl? For a moment, an indescribable feeling of humiliation spread in her heart. This feeling made her feel like she was about to collapse, but she was powerless to refute, because it really wasn't hers to begin with. After Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Qingyin's defeated expression, he didn't say anything. Instead, he turned around and left. He felt that compared to Lan Qingyin's self-righteousness in the past, it was a good choice to recognize her own worth earlier. Otherwise, if things continued to develop like this, Lan Qingyin would really have no hope. Lan Qingyin was immersed in her own thoughts and didn't even notice Lan Jingquang's departure. All along, she had been living with pride. Since young, No one could overshadow her brilliance. She had long been used to it. However, Lan Jingquang's words today were too big of a blow to her, so she couldn't recover for a while. Yu Manlon saw that Lan Qingyin was in a daze by herself and couldn't help but walk over. She said with concern, "Qingyin, your father said this because he was too angry. Don't take it to heart." Only then did Lan Qingyin regain her senses, but her expression was extremely ugly. Don't keep in mind? How could they not remember it? Now all the elders must be thinking that I am a fake, that I am not legitimate. That is why I am unable to get the Primal Chaos Tablet's recognition. Lan Yixuan had already been dead for so many years, but grandfather still remembered her. This is all because of you and father's incompetence, but now you're putting all the pressure on me. Lan Qingyin felt a burst of anger. Just thinking about all this, she felt that she would not be able to go out and meet people for a while. After saying all this, Lan Qingyin covered herself with a quilt, unwilling to say anything else. Yu Manlon looked at Lan Qingyin's appearance and felt helpless. Indeed, she was useless. If she was useful, she wouldn't be living like this for the rest of her life. Unfortunately, he had already walked down this path, and there was no way to change it. Chapter 25:13. Lan Qingyin buried her head in the quilt, wanting to forget everything. Unfortunately, she couldn't do it. She couldn't help but hate Bailey Hongzhuang even more. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang affecting her performance in the Battle of Zhuolu, she wouldn't have fallen into such a passive situation after returning to the clan. These two slaps were all because of Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang's sabotage, she would have been able to successfully sit on the Lan clan's clan head seat. In this way, no one would be able to shake her position. Why would she need to apologize to the various elders? On the contrary, it should be that group of old fellows who would listen to her orders. The resentment in Lan Qingyin's eyes gradually deepened. Since everything was ruined now, she would definitely take revenge on Bailey Hongzhuang after 3 months. She wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to die. What limitless palace's young palace lord? Bailey Hongzhuang caused her to fail to sit on the clan head seat. Then she would make sure that Bailey Hongzhuang also had no chance to sit on the limitless palace's palace lord's seat. Relying on Di Beichen's favor, she became undisciplined and out of control. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang died, she wouldn't be able to obtain anything. Lan Qingyin's mind was constantly thinking about how to make Bailey Hongzhuang suffer a painful death in order to vent her anger. She had to ask her grandaunt for some extremely cruel poisons. Once her grandaunt's poison was activated, she knew very well how terrifying it was. This was because many of the people she disliked had died in her hands like this. This time, she had to ask her grandaunt for the most vicious poison. Only then could she truly vent her anger. Just as Lan Qingyin was thinking about this, Lan Qingyin suddenly felt a faint pain coming from her body. After realizing this, Lan Qingyin couldn't help but frown. Why was her body suddenly in pain? She was only injured on her arm. However, gradually, the pain became more and more intense. Lan Qingyin didn't dare to ignore it and immediately shouted for Yu Manlon, who was outside the room. "Mother!" After hearing Lan Qingyin's call, Yu Manlon walked into the room. She originally thought that Lan Qingyin wanted her to help with something again. She didn't expect to see Lan Qingyin lying on the bed with a painful expression. Seeing this, Yu Manlon also became anxious. "Qingyin, what's wrong with you?" "I don't know." Lan Qingyin clenched her teeth and cried out in pain. "My body hurts so much. Quickly help me call a doctor and an alchemist." Hearing this, Yu Manlon quickly nodded. "I'll go right away. I'll be back soon." Yu Manlon didn't dare to delay and immediately ran out. Lan Qingyin's complexion had already turned deathly pale. She felt that every cell in her body was transmitting the feeling of pain. The heart-wrenching pain was everywhere. She had never felt such unbearable pain before. Even when her arm was broken, there was only a sharp pain, and this pain would gradually lessen. However, The pain that came from her body was like countless insects drilling into her body. It was so painful that she couldn't hide it. It was as if her body was riddled with holes. Following this pain, she found that her broken arm that was originally no longer in pain began to hurt again. Not only that, the wound on her broken arm that had already healed began to bleed again. Chapter 25:14. Under such a situation where she felt like she was being bitten by hundreds of insects, Lan Xingyin couldn't help but think of the pill that Bailey Hongzhuang had fed her. Ever since she had consumed it, she had not felt any discomfort, so she had gradually ignored it. She thought that it was the pill that Bailey Hongzhuang had fed her in order to scare her and threaten her. After all, when Bailey Hongzhuang had drugged her, the strength of their two teams were equally matched. Logically speaking, if Bailey Hongzhuang had fed her poison, then Bailey Hongzhuang should have threatened her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had never mentioned this matter, as if this pill had no effect at all. She also thought that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to threaten her anymore after she had the backing of Tiangang's sect and Shitian Pavilion. However, she couldn't think of any other reason for the sudden burst of pain in her body other than that pill. Damn Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Xingyin gritted her teeth, hating that she couldn't transfer all this pain to Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang, who had a sanctimonious appearance, would actually poison her. The next time she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she would definitely give her a taste of her own medicine. The poison that her grandaunt had concocted was the best in the entire Shengxian continent. Bailey Hongzhuang's poison couldn't be compared to it. Although she was in great pain at the moment, Lan Xingyin wasn't too worried. The Yu clan was a famous medical family in the entire Shengxian continent. Wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang showing off her slight skill in front of an expert by poisoning her? It wouldn't take long for her poison to be cured, and Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't get what she wanted. Yu Manlon quickly found a doctor and an alchemist. At the same time, this matter had alarmed the entire Lan clan. Lan Xingyin had just returned to the clan today. The previous disturbance hadn't passed yet, but now another matter had happened. It was very suspicious. Quickly take a look. What's wrong with Xingyin? Yu Manlon's face was filled with anxiety. She had never seen Lan Xingyin reveal such a painful expression. When the Lan clan's doctor and alchemist came in and saw Lan Xingyin's pale face and bleeding wounds, they were shocked. Originally, on the way here, many people were still guessing that Lan Xingyin had caused such a ruckus in order to get the clan to treat her arm as soon as possible. But now, after seeing Lan Xingyin's condition clearly, they understood that it was not an act. Lan Xingyin struggled to turn her body. Under this kind of pain, her strength had been completely exhausted in a short period of time. The doctor quickly took Lan Xingyin's pulse, but after taking her pulse, the doctor couldn't help but frown. Lan Xingyin's her pulse was calm, as if there was no problem. However, Lan Xingyin was in so much pain right now. What was this situation? Quickly help me stop the pain. I can't take this anymore, she shouted. This kind of pain could make a person collapse. She only wanted to calm this pain quickly. Hearing this, the doctor quickly nodded and immediately used a method to help Lan Xingyin reduce her pain. However, the doctor's method was useless because Lan Xingyin still looked like she was in incomparable pain. Chapter 25:15. The doctor was startled by Lan Xingyin's sudden roar. His complexion became extremely unsightly. Young master, I've already used my medical skills to reduce your pain. Is there any effect? Lan Xingyin frowned and rebuked angrily. If there's an effect, why am I in so much pain? This doctor was simply a good-for-nothing. Seeing this, the doctor's eyes flashed with doubt. Logically speaking, Lan Xingyin shouldn't be in so much pain anymore. The doctor couldn't help but look at the pharmacist beside him and asked, "Do you have any good ideas?" The pharmacist shook his head. Pharmacists weren't doctors. They could only refine pills and couldn't treat illnesses. Moreover, Most of the pills refined by pharmacists were beneficial to cultivation. At the same time, they could also refine some pills to treat injuries. However, this had nothing to do with relieving pain. There had never been a pill that could relieve pain. Yu Manlon saw that the doctor and pharmacist were looking at each other, but couldn't think of a solution. Lan Qingyan was in extreme pain. Her face instantly turned gloomy. Young master's in so much pain. Can't you find a reason? You've studied medicine for so long, yet you can't even determine this point? The Lan clan's doctors had outstanding medical skills. Some of them even went directly to the Yu clan to study medicine. After all, the Lan clan and the Yu clan were in-laws. Therefore, it was very convenient for them to help each other. Being reprimanded by Yu Manlon, the doctor lowered his head in shame. "Madam, I've checked the young master's pulse. It's peaceful and there's no problem at all. Therefore, I don't understand why the young master is in so much pain." The doctor thought that his medical skills weren't bad. However, he couldn't tell what the problem was. How would he treat it? Hearing the doctor's words, Yu Manlon couldn't help but be startled. Peaceful pulse? How can the young master's pulse be peaceful in this state? The doctor's face was bitter. He knew that no one would believe his words. However, the pulse was indeed peaceful. He had studied medicine for so long. He couldn't be wrong about this point, right? Trash. Yu Manlon slapped the doctor's face. She couldn't understand the use of sending this trash to the Yu clan to study medicine. After being slapped, although the doctor was very angry, who asked Yu Manlon to have a noble status? Thus, even if he felt vexed, he could only endure it. Yu Manlon gazed at the alchemist before her and said, "Go get all the doctors in the clan. If they can't cure the young master, then all of you don't have to live anymore." Hearing Yu Manlon's words, the pharmacist didn't dare delay. She quickly ran out of the room. To him, every time he came to the place where the young master's family lived, it was a kind of torture. After ordering the pharmacist around, Yu Manlon looked at the doctor who was still in a daze. She couldn't help but say angrily, "Why are you still in a daze? You want to rule by law." Hearing this, the doctor came back to his senses and went to Lan Qingyan's side. "Young master, what did you experience before this?" Since he couldn't diagnose it directly, he could only ask for the specific reason. Even though Lan Qingyan's heart was furious to the extreme, under this kind of pain, she simply did not have the strength to do anything. She could only report the situation to the doctor. Chapter 25:16. After receiving Lan Qingyan's answer, the doctor was also shocked. If it was poison, then such a situation was not impossible. When he was studying medicine in Yu Clan, he had learned that some extremely powerful poisons could cause people to be unable to detect the cause. At least, Yu Siqing was able to concoct such a poison. Therefore, he had always been full of reverence for Yu Siqing. Yu Siqing's attainments in poison were simply unparalleled. In their hearts, Yu Siqing was simply a godlike existence. However, according to his understanding of the situation, there were not many poison masters in the entire Shengxian continent who could concoct such a level of poison. Although he had always believed in his own medical skills, he also knew his own limits. Encountering such a level of poison, he had no way to neutralize it. The doctor took Lan Qingyan's pulse again. After confirming that there was no sign of poisoning, he became more certain of his conjecture. After thinking for a moment, the doctor still told Yu Manlon his conjecture. After hearing this answer, Yu Manlon's heart was also shocked. As a member of the Yu clan, she naturally had a certain understanding of such a situation. However, she had never had much interest in medicine. Therefore, all these years, she only knew a little about it, but was not proficient in it. If this was really the case, then the person who poisoned Lan Qingyan was not simple. "Qingyan, tell mother, who poisoned you?" Yu Manlon's eyes were gloomy. The other party actually poisoned Lan Qingyan so viciously. It was truly abominable. Until now, she still did not know what Lan Qingyan encountered in the Battle of Zhuolu. Now, it seemed that she really experienced a lot of danger in the Battle of Zhuolu. Lan Qingyan naturally heard the doctor's answer. Her hatred for Bailey Hongzhuang immediately deepened. She did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to poison her so horribly. She really underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Qingyan gritted her teeth and said Bailey Hongzhuang's name. It's all because of that bitch. I will definitely take her life. However, after saying this, Lan Qingyan's entire body was about to collapse. It was really too painful. Bailey Hongzhuang? Yu Manlan silently repeated this name. Ever since Lan Qingyan returned, she had already heard this name several times. The other party caused Qingyan to lose her position as the patriarch and broke Qingyan's arm. Who would have thought that he would actually dare to poison Qingyan? Did the other party not know that the Yu clan was also Qingyan's backer? This was simply a provocation. At this moment, Yu Manlan bore a grudge against Bailey Hongzhuang. Not to mention that Lan Qingyan would not let Bailey Hongzhuang off. She would not let her off either. After the pharmacist called all the doctors over, the news of Lan Qingyan's accident spread throughout the Lan family. The cultivators who were participating together with Lan Qingyan quickly guessed the reason behind this. They couldn't help but lament in their hearts. The young lord had really made an unwise decision in the battle for deer chasing this time. If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Lan Jingquang and the others couldn't help but frown when they found out about this matter. This was truly a case of one trouble after another. Chapter 25:17. After the diagnosis of all the doctors in the Lan clan, everyone helplessly concluded that there was no problem with Lan Qingyan's pulse. Therefore, they all affirmed the first doctor's judgment. Because, other than this reason, they couldn't think of any other reason. They had no problem treating ordinary illnesses, and they could also detoxify ordinary poisons. However, for a poison of this level, it wasn't something they could easily detoxify. Even in the entire Shangxian continent, there were only a few people who could detoxify it. Therefore, after everyone's discussion, there was only one way left, and that was to send Lan Qingyan to the Yu clan. Other than this, there was no other way. After Lan Qingyan knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had poisoned her with such a powerful poison, her feelings were extremely complicated. She really didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have such a level of poison. She really underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang. Although she was extremely angry, Lan Qingyan's life was hanging by a thread under the torment of such pain. This kind of torture was simply unbearable. Lan Jingquang, the second elder, and the others rushed over after knowing that Lan Qingyan's situation was so serious. Lan Qingyan's arm was bleeding nonstop, and her face was extremely pale. Cold sweat covered her forehead. Jingquang, we can only send Qingyan to the Yu clan now. If this continues, Qingyan definitely won't be able to take it. After seeing Lan Jingquang, Yu Manlan felt as if she had seen her pillar of support. She immediately told him the suggestions of the doctors. Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Qingyan's painful appearance and couldn't help but frown. He said, Qingyan's injuries are very serious now. If the journey is bumpy, I'm afraid it will be even more unfavorable. Why don't we invite your aunt over? But if we inform my aunt and wait for her to come over, it will take a lot of time. Looking at Qingyan's condition, I don't know if she can hold on for that long. Yu Manlan's face was full of worry. If possible, it would be best to invite Yu Siqing. However, with the current situation, it was really too late. She was also very helpless in her heart. When the Yu clan was in trouble, she and Qingyan were the first to return. Just this point alone had already caused the Yu clan to have a lot of complaints. It could be felt just by looking at the communication between them these days. If she sent someone to invite her aunt at this time, her aunt might not be willing to come. She knew Yu Siqing's character very well. Even if it was the Yu clan's clan master, Yu Siqing would not give him face, let alone her. If she directly sent Lan Qingyan over and brought some greeting gifts, she believed that Yu Siqing would be willing to help. Hearing Yu Siqing's words, Lan Jingquang thought for a moment and felt that Yu Siqing's words made sense. Anyone could tell that Lan Qingyan's current state was too weak. If this dragged on, no one knew if she could hold on. Since that's the case, let's not delay any longer. Immediately send someone to prepare the carriage and set off. Lan Jingquang immediately gave the order. Lan Borong and Lan Hongtai also came to visit Lan Xinyan after they heard the news. As the young master of the Lan clan, nothing must happen to Lan Xinyan. Chapter 2518. Along with the news of Bailey Hongzhuang leading Limitless Palace's team to obtain first place in the team and individual competition, Bailey Hongzhuang's reputation in Limitless Palace rose rapidly. Initially, the disciples who were suspicious of Bailey Hongzhuang, the sudden appearance of the young palace master, no longer had any doubts after knowing the results. On the contrary, everyone was more and more supportive of Bailey Hongzhuang. They had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang before and never knew that Limitless Palace had such a young palace master. That was why they had doubts in their hearts. And when they found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's battle results from Pei Yifan and the others, all the disciples' worship for Bailey Hongzhuang was like a torrential river. Some of the cultivators who didn't have the opportunity to participate in the Battle of Zhuelu were even more vexed. Just thinking about it, they knew how great it was to participate in the Battle of Zhuelu. It was simply limitless glory. The young Lord of the Lan family was actually taught a lesson by the young palace master. She had helped everyone in Limitless Palace to vent their anger. It was a pity that they didn't have the chance to experience it personally. But now that they knew about it, they felt incomparably refreshed. Not only were the disciples full of admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang, even the elders of Limitless Palace were glowing with radiance. They were full of praises for Bailey Hongzhuang. All these years, they had been bullied by the elders of other forces. Now, they could finally hold their heads high. The next time they went out, they wanted to see which force's elder still dared to look down on them. At this moment, even if the elders of the Lan family were to stand in front of them, they wouldn't have any confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally felt the changes in Limitless Palace. Thinking back to before she participated in the Battle of Zhuelu, she was met with suspicious gazes. Now, no matter where she went, the disciples of Limitless Palace would politely address her as young palace master. The change in treatment wasn't small at all. Since Bailey Hongzhuang came out of the assessment, she had been criticized and doubted by everyone all the way until now. Speaking of which, the feeling of being supported like this was really good. Bailey Hongzhuang liked this feeling very much. After all, she had relied on her own strength and performance in exchange for this. No one liked to be questioned and ridiculed. Although Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care much about these things, she felt particularly peaceful when these voices disappeared. Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer in a hurry after learning that the Sun-Moon Palace's situation had taken a turn for the better. Instead, she directly sent a letter to the Sun-Moon Palace, writing down her thoughts. If father and mother's body condition recovered well enough, then 3 months later, they would be able to appear in the Lan family. If his parents had not fully recovered, then they would wait a little longer. Anyway, she had already waited for so many years. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't mind waiting a little longer. During these days, she was cultivating in Limitless Palace while waiting for Di Beichen. She believed that Di Beichen would come to find her very soon after he had settled the matters of Tiangang's sect. Actually, she had a plan in her heart. It was just that she wasn't sure if it would succeed. Master, what kind of poison did you give Lan Xinyan? Chapter 2519. Not only Little Black, Little White, and Baishur could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang after hearing the discussion. They were also very curious. Looking at the excited faces of the 3 little radish heads, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. These 3 little guys had always wanted to know everything. 10,000 worms gnawing on the heart. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. When she went to rescue her parents, Lan Xinyan and the rest went to the dungeon to see Mu Lingbing and Lan Xinyan. When she rescued her parents, she clearly noticed the new scars on her mother's body. She didn't need to think to know that it was either Yu Manlon or Lan Qingyan who had caused it, especially the red and swollen slap on Mu Lingbing's face. It was as if it had hit her heart. From that moment on, she was determined to return all of this to Yu Manlon and Lan Qingyan. Furthermore, after understanding the pain her parents had to endure, she felt that no matter what she did, she would never be able to return all of this to them. She wanted Lan Qingyan and the rest to know what pain was and what it was like to be in so much pain that they wished they were dead. 10,000 worms gnawing on the heart. The three beasties' eyes lit up. Just by hearing the name, they knew that this poison was not simple. This poison should have already taken effect in Lan Qingyan's body. She will feel immense pain all over her body. Countless amounts of pain will drill out from every cell, making it impossible to avoid. Furthermore, as long as there are wounds on her body, the wounds will not heal. Every 7 days of pain, the pain will disappear for a day. However, when the pain comes again, the pain will rise to another level. When Bailey Hongzhuang was concocting this poison, she only wanted Lan Qingyan to have a taste of this pain. All these years, the pain that Lan Jingquang and his family gave them was 1,000 times, 10,000 times more painful than this. Now, she wanted them to have a good taste of what pain felt like. However, although this pain is unbearable, it won't take her life. After all, I still need to fight her head-on. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a meaningful smile. Lan Qingyan had been in the limelight for so many years because she stole her rainbow pearl. Now, she wanted to defeat Lan Qingyan with her own hands. Letting her die like this would be letting her off too easily. Most of the time, the pain in the heart was much more painful than the pain in the body. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasts nodded. I'll let Lan Qingyan suffer for a period of time and collect some interest. In the future, she'll be in for a good time. Xiaohei's face was filled with excitement. Ever since it saw Lan Qingyan, it hated Lan Qingyan even more. However, just as its master had said, it felt that defeating Lan Qingyan in front of everyone in the Lan clan would be the most satisfying. Xiao Bai and Bai Shi also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with sparkling eyes. No matter what choice Master made, they would support her 100%. Right now, Lan Qingyan still did not understand why they were doing all this. However, not long after, when the Lan clan found out about all this, their expressions would be very interesting. If I'm not wrong, the Lan clan has no way of dispelling the poison that I concocted. Right now, they should have brought Lan Qingyan to the Yu clan. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. Everything was within her plan. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.